Trying to find the first page. The hands to work. Okay.
I do want to note for this, there was a couple missed steps putting this document together. Some red lines disappeared. So please ask questions if you see something, you're like, why is this not moving forward? It's possible, it is very well moving forward.
Okay, on page, excuse me, on page 5 of 13, my old favorite, the security fencing, well field and deck and pond. Excuse me, is that finished?
No, it's not. It's not finished. Our goal is to have it constructed this year.
Can it be bigger than a goal and get it constructed this year?
Well, the biggest hurdle for that one is the environmental permitting, which we're gonna be working with community development on. So right now we modified, for those of you that aren't familiar, this is 2 fencing projects. One is the decant pond at the water treatment plant, and it's also a security fence around the well field. And we originally had a layout that we worked on with our consultants, then after looking at the number of trees that were gonna need to be removed and looking at the mitigation with community development, we decreased the footprint and modified the number of trees that we have to remove. So now we had to do a revised mitigation plan, which I'm supposed to get this week, and then we'll submit that to community development for the permit review.
Okay, that still worries me, that one, bad. On page 8 of 13, the Osborne School property redevelopment. Are we ever gonna do anything?
Well, we applied for state funding in this budget cycle and didn't get it. I just put in another congressionally directed funding request through Cantwell's office. I asked for 2 million. I am moving forward on the asbestos abatement. But I found out that because we're using federal dollars, we have to do a cultural resources assessment. So I have to hire an archaeological historian to complete a historic property inventory form before we can go out to bid for the asbestos removal. But I can tell you that will happen this year.
But the building stays,
Building stays until there's further direction from council to do otherwise.
so how do we get going on the further direction from council?
It's happening.
Money, 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 money.
We have money to demo it. But if we want to pursue the idea of doing the readaptive reuse and doing partial demolition, that requires funding, and that's why nothing's happened, because we're waiting to see if we get funding. I still haven't heard whether or not the $942,000 from HUD is available to us.
And that would,
That could get us that part.
so that, could that get the building down so that we can have the green space and the ball fields and things that originally the citizens in Leavenworth voted for?
I don't have a cost estimate for taking the building down and converting into fields, so I don't know.
Are we gonna do that?
That's not been direction from council to me thus far.
And that, I'm not sure what vote you're referring to, but
The one at the high school?
that was not a vote of that was raised hands at a school board meeting. That wasn't a vote of the
There were 80,
community.
there were 80 people
But I'm just saying, we did a lot bigger process that said they wanted a mid-sized community center and then the rest left open. And that's the process that we went through that involved specifically getting feedback on that side. And that's the direction that we're trying to go with the moving of the library over there.
So-
Have to get the funding.
So Selby, what's the, when will this historical, we have a timeline or any idea?
Once I've done the work, it's 30-day review by the tribes before we can move forward. And, yeah, I don't know why, when all this project is gonna do is go into the utility corridor and remove asbestos around pipes, why I have to go through this hurdle,
Yeah.
but I don't know everything.
This is right. Not everything makes sense.
So, have we made contact with the cultural, whatever, like who's gonna make this assessment yet, or,
No, I just got this email on Friday that I have to go through this room.
okay,
So that'll happen when I'm back
from the tour,
from February, yes.
yeah.
Can you don't have to do it now, but can you sketch out something for me so that I see how this process is lining up? I mean, I thought the building was gonna be removed, so we would get the green space that
I never heard that.
there is no residential park on this side of the highway.
We just built a $1.2 million playground,
That was the playground,
right?
so it's considered a residential park
It's definitely considered a
or
residential
part
park.
of a residential.
Absolutely it
Okay.
is.
Well, I'm looking for the building leaving.
I know you are.
Okay. So can you give me a list of things so that I can start checking off things?
Sure.
Thank you.
Selby, what is it, you want direction from the council, it sounds like, you mentioned that twice at the beginning of this conversation. So it's still relatively new member of the council.
Sure.
Where did we stop before, and how do we bring this up?
Funding. So the direction that I got from council was I pitched an idea of doing a partial demolition of the building, moving the library into a newly renovated space, and turning another portion of the gym and some classrooms into flexible community spaces. The council agreed that was a good idea and provided me direction to pursue grant funding design. This council approved a professional services agreement with ARC Architects to do a fatal flaws analysis. We completed that in February of completed that fatal flaws analysis in April of 24. We applied for a $2 million library improvement grant through Commerce. We were not successful because they want to be the last money in. They like the project, they told us to keep on pursuing it. So the project has remained on the project tracker with no additional direction from council other than what I've described.
You missed the part where it was going to save us $3 million in expanding City Hall by moving the library as well.
Well, that was the whole rationale behind this was, we had a $14 million price tag on expanding City Hall to accommodate the space that we need and the library wants. And then a community center was just back of the envelope, $10+ million. So this project right now, just the library portion is about 6. So it would save money, and create more space for City Hall staff. So we could expand downstairs. That was the pitch that I made, and that's what council agreed to.
And so you said we keep that wing for the library and down keep the small gymnasium and then come down bathrooms and then the office, the workroom, the classroom, and on the other side, the bathrooms, the classroom. That was the last I heard, and the rest is going to come down.
Yeah, nothing's changed.
And okay,
Yeah, we haven't changed that.
and so now we're just looking for money.
We don't want to tear that down until we can secure that and look at it.
Because if it turns out, if we can't fund the whole thing, we'll just do what you want, take the whole building down and grass it.
So we're gonna
Yeah.
hear back, about that other grant that you're seeking soon.
I don't know when when Congress goes through their congressionally directed spending. I do know that we have not, I have not heard from HUD about the technical correction that I submitted to repurpose the funds that we received for another project that went away for this project. So we are falling several $1 million short to make this project.
Is there some other avenues that you have thought of that you could present to council for us?
Well, if we get some of this federal funding, then we would have more money and we would go back to Commerce. They have $10 million that they award every 2 years. It's a pretty competitive grant, but they liked the idea, they liked the project. There were just other projects that were further along on the funding stream than ours was. So they said, come back to us when you have more of the money lined up. So those grants would be due a year from now.
So the HUD money's still a year out, so what you're saying?
That money, we don't know if it's gonna come or not.
You said it come at all, but it does come,
$2 million is the state
okay.
library.
So if the HUD money does come, it's still a year out before we get to it, right?
Yeah, because that won't give us enough money to.
Right, you need to back up.
We need the full funding in order to pull the trigger
Connect
on
with that one.
This has been a 5-year project from the beginning, right? This wasn't gonna be done next year. This is gonna be a 5-year project.
If it ever comes to fruition, yes.
Yeah.
Just a question, out of the blue, can hotel motel tax pay a portion of that, since,
It's a community library, it's a community
no, not for
center.
the library,
Okay.
for the playground, because they will be using it for lunch and.
The playground's done fully funded by the city and our ARPA funds. We've discussed and chose not to use a lot of tax. Because you wanted it just for the residents,
I did,
the council, you, the council.
okay. That's my last question.
All right, let's take a brief break and we'll be back for our regular meeting. Thank you.
It's crazy.
So, yeah. Call the meeting to order for the council meeting of April 22nd. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Clint, why don't you get us started?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Sharon Waters.
Clint Strand. Zeke Reister. Shane Thayer.
Travis McMaster.
Mike Bedard.
And
Ann Hesberg.
they're all here and via Zoom, but thank you all. Before we get a motion to approve the consent agenda, we've got a couple of additions. Adding 10.2 as second ordinance 1710. And you've been given that info, but that will be coming later in the meeting when we pass ordinances. Then we're also adding 17.1. And that's for an on-call dust abatement. Again, just slipped off. The third item that we're going to change is poll item number 5, the extension of the purchase and sale on Norling Lane. And we'll deal with that after our public hearing. We'll do that at the very beginning of our resolutions, ordinances, orders. So with those changes, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I approve the consent agenda as amended.
Time out.
Okay?
I have one spot, page 2 or tab 2, page 3 of 5. Under 12, Cascade Medical Center Parking Agreement Amendment. When you put council member Reister moved, blah, blah, blah. When you get to council member Waters, there's no S.
Oh,
No big deal,
I
but
will add your S.
thank you.
No problem.
You're not just water, huh?
That's right.
Okay.
Sorry.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Shane, seconded by Zeke. As amended. All those in favor, let me see your hands. Passes unanimously. Comments from the public on items that are not on our agenda. Anybody have something here pressing? Is there anybody else online? No.
May I ask how many people are online right now? 3?
Do we know? How many? are
Three.
online? 3? Just Ann that we can see.
Well, 3 attendees. We have the
Right.
Ann and then us and then Zelby. And then 3 attendees.
Three other attendees, okay. All right. I am going to start with a reading of a proclamation here. We are declaring the month of May as Arts Education Month. Whereas Arts Education Month continues to celebrate and amplify the innovative work of arts educators in service of students and families in communities across the state, including Leavenworth. And whereas the city of Leavenworth recognizes arts learning as a fundamental part of basic education for all pre-K through 12 grade students, regardless of race, geography, ability, identities, and socioeconomic status. And whereas statewide and national data reveal persistent regional and demographic inequities in student and family access to community-based arts learning opportunities. And whereas arts are for everyone and students benefit most when arts learning is designed to be accessible to all and when curriculum is culturally relevant. And whereas arts education includes a range of benefits for youth, including increased confidence, academic achievement, understanding of cultures and histories, innovation, school engagement, critical thinking. And whereas as communities navigate the many stressors of our time, access to arts learning is more important than ever for healing, brain health, and social emotional development of young people, their families, and the communities that surround them. And whereas integrating the arts in early learning classrooms fosters joyful classrooms and supports our city's youngest students with the development of motor skills, literacy, social skills, and a sense of belonging. And whereas the city of Leavenworth recognizes the professional expertise of arts educators and advocates in our community and invites the community and its leaders to continue to strengthen those efforts that increase access to arts education for every student. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the mayor and city council of the city of Leavenworth, Washington, the month of May as Arts Education Month. I encourage all people in our city to join in this special observance by acknowledging and thanking all of those involved in bringing the arts of all kinds and types to our youth through the work of our school district and the many nonprofit organizations located here that share in this vital mission. Signed this 22nd day of April, 2025. Lori Mayor, unless I present this. I'm getting it without someone's instigation that this is being done, so come on up, and who do you have that you?
I've got a handful of other arts.
Let's bring them up, anybody who wants to be.
Oh,
Yeah. You know, it takes a village, so let's get the village up here.
Proclamation. Why doesn't it always do it?
Yeah.
Because I think that what we're talking about is a resolution, like the resolution.
I don't disagree with it. I just wondered where it came from.
Right, no, yeah, come on up.
You're
That was fun. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor and City Council for having all of us here this evening. I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Monica Miller. I'm the new Executive Director for Ice Club Creek Center for the Arts. As you may know, we are once again renewing our commitment to arts education this year through our Visiting Artist Program, where we put performing artists, world-class performing artists in the schools, as well as sponsoring the funding of 2 visual arts teachers who we have here tonight in the Cascade School District. And I'm delighted to be moving to a community that has such an investment in the arts for our youth. I'm here today with members of those other organizations mentioned earlier, our Sleeping Lady Foundation, in support of the arts, as well as Glory Smart, an arts educator, and our superintendent, Tracy Adu. And on behalf of Ice Club Creek Center for the Arts, your children, my child, the board and staff of Ice Club Creek, we very much appreciate this wonderful proclamation. And I hope that it can serve as a promise for future collaborations in support of the arts.
Thank you. Yeah.
I said, oh, I'm like, dang.
All right, next we have our public.
we have a speaker, we have a speaker.
We have another speaker. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I have to say, but I just want to say thank you. I'm a middle school art teacher here in Leavenworth.
Okay.
And I get the pleasure of teaching over 200 middle school students each year. And it is an absolute joy to teach art to them every single day and watch their innovation, watch their problem solving skills, and be a part of a community that is extremely supportive. And I couldn't be more grateful for these foundations and all of their support. It wouldn't have continued without their help. And I'm just so grateful for this proclamation. It means the world to me, and I know my students as well, and I'm speaking on their behalf, and how positive this has been for our school. And it's just such a great blessing for me as a teacher. I feel so lucky that I get to see all these art students every day and see how their brains are thinking, and they're thinking outside the box and problem solving. And so anyway, I'm just really grateful for this opportunity of the proclamation, what it's gonna do for our community. So
Right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody?
Not gonna cut the next one off. Go ahead, Tracy.
Well, good evening. It's really difficult to follow. Lori. I miss my courses or students call her. I did want to say, first of all, happy Earth Day.
Yeah, right.
But I also want to send a thank you not only to the city of Leavenworth City Council, but also to everyone who supports the arts. As we all know, artful creativity is one of the core values of our school district. And with the support of our community partners, such as our School Creek Center for the Arts, Arts in the Park, the Christian in the Park campaign, Cascade Education Foundation, I could just keep going on. You know, we are able to have just an amazing portfolio of visual arts, music, drama, opportunities for kids starting at the very youngest age, all the way up through their senior year in high school, even getting college credits while they're in high school for work they do in arts. So thank you all for continually validating the arts. I think it's one of the very special things about our unique area in our school district. And I love that we're advertising that to everyone who comes to. So thank you.
Thank you. Ria? Ria, are you gonna? Come on, come on.
One for Jace.
All right, great. Well, thank you. And I appreciate it. It is a totally a village thing, and that's fun to see. So thank you all. All right, we will then move on to our public safety reports. Corporal Blake is here in person. Yeah, great. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
I know.
you.
I don't have an hours report. I think a couple of us didn't get ours in for March. Still pretty slow, but getting ready to gear up, apple blossom, all that good stuff coming up, getting good here. Seems like yesterday, some wayward youth out of Monroe found their way to Leavenworth in a stolen car. Yesterday afternoon, I'm not sure how we found out, I was off. Not sure how we found out that they were in the area. They took off out of town. They were not pursued, but were seen going up Gill Creek. Just with that in. So the deputies went ahead and blocked that off, got the drones up. And were able to find them with using the drones. Get them in custody. The driver was a really good friend and claimed the passenger didn't know the car was stolen. Oh, hold on. But, so the passenger didn't get charged. The driver did. That was the excitement so far. It also dawned on me on my way out here that I think our malicious mischief, did he have his?
The hearing is supposed to be today, but
I haven't heard.
the trial.
My anniversary was yesterday, so I am not forgetting that on my mind.
Good for you.
So and I didn't work yesterday, so I did not. Check. I will try and find out. Yeah. That.
Any questions?
So we're getting ready. Actually, this is gonna be a rough summer. The sergeant, on day shift that I currently have, is going back to EM. We'll get another sergeant July 1st. So we're gonna be a little short, we're gonna be a little busy. Something was in the water a while ago. I think there's 4 expecting babies this summer. So we're gonna be awful short, a lot of overtime put up this summer. Shifts.
Questions for Randy? All right. Well, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
Good evening, Randy.
Do we have Mike? Okay,
Oh, wait,
huh?
nope, we don't.
Nope. All right, we'll move on then. We've got a water source feasibility study by Adam.
So while Andrew is pulling up, did you get the memo? I did. Okay. While Andrew is pulling up, I'll just give a brief intro. So this is, Adam met with our H2 engineering. He has been working on our second source study. It's 2022. It's been a while. So he's here tonight. Just a quick presentation. We're not looking for council direction on what we want for our second source or anything like that. Really, this is just to give you an overview of where we're at.
Yep.
Start the conversation.
Yeah, 10 hours.
So that's
Yeah, so you guys may not remember, but I told basically did the same thing a year ago. So this is very much just overview. Unfortunately, the amount of progress made in that year is less than we were hoping to. So we're working on get some monies from the high school work group to look at potentially another groundwater source to potentially replace your surface water diversion off the high school. So we did a deep dive into the hydrogeology. Yeah, so we're gonna talk about 2 parts to your funding that you got from high school workers. One was the conservation plan. How can you potentially save money or save water? And the second part, second source. So we'll leave the second source alone for a second, talk about the conservation plan. So we looked at some of your guys' water use and evaluated by source, and for the most part, you're fairly 50-50 on surface to ground. At least in the past, we've been fairly even. There's a few years where it's disproportionate, but we'll call it 50-50 for now. We looked at the icicle as kind of from a water, not just availability. So think about withdrawing water from any source, you need a water rate to do it. And so you have in the water rate world, you have legal availability to water and you have physical availability to water. So physical availability is pretty easy. It's the water in the creek and liquid in the aquifer. And legal is whether or not you have a right to it or somebody else has it. So one of the things we looked at was stream flow and the icicles compared to the existing water rate stuff. And one of the things that the conservation plan pointed out is that there are some periods, right, in about this neck of the woods where the actual flow drops below what you guys have legal access to. We're still water in the creek, and you were still able to divert at that time, but there are more senior water rights to that water than the water and senior to you water rights in that creek. Than the water. So while you were still able to exercise your water right because somebody made a call on you and told you, hey, you gotta stop so we can get ours. That was definitely identified as a kind of a high-risk situation for where you're at right now. Kind of help set the framework for them going forward to evaluate it for second. So
Was that a period of like several months or is that a year? I'm sorry. How long is that period that we dip down into that?
So it's really not very long. It's like
Okay.
weeks.
Okay, well, there.
So it's usually September, so down here we got like, this is September 12th. It's kind of about the time it starts, and then this blue box represents the end, and that's effectively when high school shouts and shut off their diversion. So as soon as they shut off, they're the big ones that are senior to you and use a lot more water. So as soon as they shut off, it's fine, you guys are good to go. So all of these low flows out here have become irrelevant from a legality standpoint, because they're no longer exercising my right. And we only went back not even 10 years. So there are some very dry years in the early 2000s and some really dry years in the early 1900s. And I think some really dry years in the 70s. So one of the things we also looked at was climate change going forward and how that's going to impact the icicle. There's some great, the state has some great tools available for modeling that in different watersheds. Their point on the Wenatchee is downstream, it's upstream. But when you model, so these are all the same years that we looked at before for the Wenatchee, and when you model the icicle, you get a very similar distribution. It's just the flow of magnitude is a little bit different because we're looking at the Wenatchee instead of the icicle. But it's a very good proxy for if you're going to evaluate one from a climate standpoint. It will have many of the same implications for temperature and precip. So looking at the results of the kind of climate forecast, you can see that under a lower emission projection, we have not huge change in the hydrodynamics. But in general, it's moving slightly earlier and it's a little bit lower. So you're getting a little bit more precip earlier in the year, a little bit more of your stream flow earlier in the year, and that's just due to lack of snow. And as we move to a more higher emissions forecast, you can see that you're getting a lot more rain and less snow, and your peak is way less going forward. So it's not, this is what's going to happen, but it just helps kind of set the framework for evaluating the risk of staying on a surface water body going forward. And I should note or point out, the icicle does have one of the few basins in Washington that actually have a lot of artificial storage. It would be great to help mitigate for the effects of climate change. You just don't have access to them. So you kind of get a little bit of access to it because you share a diversion with IDID, and they have lots of storage up there. So you can kind of leech off them a little bit without effectively leaching off them. So that is a little bit of benefit, but yeah, you're not supposed to touch it. Looking at the two big basins, just the kind of framework and how similar they are. So this is the icicle. You can see we tried to highlight, it's hard to see at this distance. We tried to highlight the glacial coverage because that's your natural artificial summer storage, right? Like glaciers just store water all summer, release it. The Wenatchee has obviously much bigger, but also just has a minimal amount of absolute headwater. So they will model quite similar. And the results of this, and I took out a couple more slides with me here the last time for you guys, because some of it was based on your water use. And the more we looked at that data, the less we wanted to talk about that data. So it just, the quality of it maybe wasn't there consistent from year to year. So it's really hard to draw long-term conclusions. So I think going forward, we'll have better data to be able to reevaluate the water use spectrum. But key thing is we were able to tease out is You guys have a pretty high leakage rate, it accounts for quite a bit of water. You have a fair number of people who currently use domestic water for irrigation. However, that cost savings appears to be fairly minimal when you compare it to your leakage rate of 115 acre feet per year versus switching everyone who we think we speculate is using irrigation water or using domestic water to irrigate, it's only about 5 acre feet. And the reality is converting from one to the other, just swapping water for water, whether or not you were able to get them irrigated water, or if you were able to get them domestic water, it's just one. It's saving a lot. Guys did want us, or Lincoln County really wanted us to look at a turf replacement program. So we did look at what a program like that would look like. There are examples around the Northwest. Spokane has a pretty robust one. Generally, what we found is that while they work pretty good initially, the long-term benefits become grayer and grayer the further you treat foot. And then there's a few other things in the conservation plan came out at the end that are pretty easy things, but they don't save you a ton of money. Like rebate programs for high vacancy buildings, fine, and stuff like that. The biggest one in terms of just saving water is really cutting down on irrigation.
Adam, what is grass turf replacement? What is that?
Oh, well, like turn out your yard and put in rocks.
Yeah,
That's
Zero scale.
Yeah, zero scale.
Yeah, so that's the most extreme case. There are obviously the whole spectrum in between those two, where you can just have more native plants that don't require that.
Right.
Question two, on the irrigation water, instead of domestic water, and if they're using the domestic.
Yeah, I'm tracking.
Yeah,
Keep going.
do we know who they are?
We can speculate who they are, yes. So they're everyone north of Wenatchee because, not everyone, almost everyone north of Wenatchee because, what's it, Cascade? Cascade Orchards, thank you. Doesn't serve across there. And you have a few irrigators who've had groundwater rights kind of periphery of Leavenworth historically, and Leavenworth's grown a little bit, it's included those. And so there are a few homes that have some irrigation rights to them, but for the most part, everyone on this side of the river is going to be using domestic irrigation.
So if they are using domestic,
Yep,
and that's proven,
yep,
are they paying for domestic water?
yeah,
They are,
Yeah.
so they're using it and paying for it,
yeah.
and it would be cheaper to not do that for them.
The idea would simply be if we could find them another source of water. It wasn't global, right? Like you could look at expanding Cascade Orchards across. You could look at, there's lots of potential things. You could look at trying to form an irrigation district, the Hill area. Seed it with some kind of water right from an orchard. The idea was just to evaluate, what if we got people in Leavenworth off domestic water for irrigation? What would that look like and what would that do for the city? And the result is really that we would do a little bit. But likely the source for that replacement water is still going to be from the icicle. So if we're looking at it holistically in terms of like, how can we divert less from the icicle? It doesn't save us a whole lot per se. I can throw it to that. So this is an approximation. If these lines could be fuzzy or other things be fuzzy. But this is approximately your water using. For 430 acre feet domestic and 404 irrigation in summer. So you spike pretty hard in summer, like everyone does around here. So that was the intention of, well, what if we can get some people off of it and on something else? And the idea is it just doesn't save us that much.
you saying the city of Leavenworth, the government, or the city?
Good point out. This is all the people in Leavenworth. This is the city of. So, sorry, I should have made that clear.
No, I'm saying, yeah, we're a big user.
You are a big
Yeah,
user, it turns out.
yeah, the biggest.
I don't think you're the biggest, I think you're the second biggest.
Oh,
I think the school district might be.
not
Yeah,
according
yeah.
to your chart on page.
Well, part of
This
it
is a
is
caveat.
that we don't have
Oh, this is a
good
caveat.
data on school district
Right.
water use.
Oh,
and stuff,
yeah,
but
that's the asterisk.
That, yes, we don't have good data on school. We have good data on yours. And that's kind of the only big water user we have good data on. And just when you look at the number of acres on an aerial, it would just make sense that they would be the one you guys.
We are addressing that this year, so we had a meter replacement project before I started, I want to say in 2020 or 2021. And some of these, 2019. Some of these are still old meters that are replaced and they're not reading and reporting accurately. And so we are finishing out the replacement this year so that we will have accurate readings from the rest of it.
It also made it really tough because one of the ways you estimate irrigation summer use is to use an interface line meter.
Yeah,
Right.
But then you get historically don't read meters in the winter,
right.
which makes it much more challenging to figure out what that baseline is.
Shellgate.
We also doubled it a little bit. I believe you guys had a rate study done on your water rates. This was kind of done concurrently. It started off not knowing that they were both going at the same time. So we did look at some of your guys' water rates, and have some pretty high ones already. High being based on a just picked out of the blue, water unit. Just pick a house, give them a use, and then look at all the ones around, kind of see where you guys stack up to other people. So you were already pretty high. Again, all the way up to the top, very high. And, oh, sorry, this is both how much base allotment you get, these numbers in white. Like you guys give people a lot of water with their rate, but again, you changed it all. Let's just get through this.
That's the old way to rate, right?
Yeah, let's just move along.
I think we put that in the write-up because this
Gotcha.
had all been drafted prior.
Yeah, correct.
So it's adoptable rate study, we just didn't think it was worthwhile, but.
Right, so this is kind of like what we did in the drought conservation plan, but it's already been my last. You've already acted on it, proactive, good job.
30 years late.
Questions on the drought conservation plan? You're gonna have one. No, nobody? Okay.
You're saying we're gonna have plenty of water, is that what?
Oh, I'm just doing water.
Yeah.
I have a question, see what council doesn't mind. So I'm just curious about that spring of types, right, from the school district. And, you know, we've always felt with that, then that spring of types be turned into some kind of irrigation.
Yeah.
And so I was curious about that spring of types and how that all fits into all this, considering that we're the number 2 water user in the city, in my opinion, but what do you think about that spring? It seemed like it had a lot of water.
So if there's already rights to it, that would be beneficial. Then you could look at, are those rights being exercised? You could look at acquiring and reallocating something else. If there's not already rights assigned to it, there's a good chance you're not gonna, college is not gonna grant water rights or hardly anything anymore. So their take, especially in most of our east side basins are considered closed basins, would be just once they pass the entry level. Very depending on which basin it is, but I believe in the Wenatchee was late 80s maybe. So once they pass the in-stream flow rule, anytime where you have surface water and groundwater connectivity, then they're gonna treat them as the same, and they're just not gonna grant any water rights out of that. It's just not that it doesn't make sense. It absolutely makes sense to use that and maybe divert less of the expo. That I don't think from an administrative standpoint, how it's gonna, be able to make that jump.
I believe that's privately owned.
Yeah, there is a private water system up there because they approached us about taking it on. If you remember, some of you old timers would remember.
That honestly makes it easier if there's already use for it. Then it's just a matter of shuffling use from one person to another person, one spot to another spot. It's if there isn't any use associated with something that actually becomes a lot harder. But you also then have to stop using it. You're gonna move it, you have to stop using it the way it's currently being used, which may just add more stress on the city system.
Yeah, I guess there was just a period of time when we just saw like a 24/7 water running to the ditch. So we always kind of thought, well, instead of this water running into a ditch, use it. Why not have it while they're stopping it? I don't know, it was just a curiosity. It wasn't my idea, it was my grounds thought about it. So I was just curious since you've done the study. If it was just kind of running into a ditch also. Now, last summer it looked different, so maybe something changed about that, but I don't know how that all works when there's just water that's just kind of
So,
running.
okay. Again, you have to, water is considered a public trust resource, so it can't be owned by anyone. You can't call bids without going through ecology. So you have to go to ecology petition to have a new water right to it. And show how it's not impairing somebody else. So it's not that it's not possible. If you-
May I call a point of order here? Are we taking custom questions from the audience during this period? Should they come to the stand? Are we taking questions and comments right now?
This is really our time to get information from our
Okay.
consultant
Okay.
more than it is to try to get, I don't want to go
So,
so
I'm
far
sorry,
afield,
yeah.
but yeah.
Right? Are we,
Right.
we're not taking questions?
Yeah, I would say let's rein that in so we can finish the presentation.
Apologies.
No, right.
So Adam,
I think I call
Yeah, right.
so my question would be, we have a limited supply of water, it's probably gonna be diminished, right?
right.
So how does that play into permitting future developments of high users? Like more hotels, other businesses? Don't we have to kind of take a look at this and say, what, because this is a high demand spot. This is where people make a lot of money, right?
Absolutely.
So I've always been thinking like, we're in a limited source of water. We can't be just okaying all permits to build.
No, we have the water rights. What we
I don't mean
don't,
water rights. I mean, we haven't got the water.
no, we have the water's there. It's just, we don't want to take it from surface. We want to take it where it's already gone down below. It's the same water, but there's no fish there. And it doesn't impact the flow of and the nature of the icicle. And that's why we're doing this study, is to look at. But if we can find the spots that will produce with the water, we've got the water and the water rights. So that's not the issue on here, not for many, many years.
But that's the key, right? Everyone's gonna run into it at some point.
Right.
With, like, everyone. Right, just with growth and forecast.
Yeah.
Eventually everyone, there's one set of water. But I believe your guys' water system plan points to that date being a very long ways out. Like, we're all gonna be in, but don't worry about it. And one of the interesting things actually about growth too is, doesn't matter how we forecast it, if you go back and look at water system plans from the early 2000s or the 90s, we never end up hitting our goals. We always forecast there to be more water demand than there actually is, even if population keeps pace. So the general just public awareness that, hey, turn your sink off while you're brushing your teeth type thing actually kind of works. We do a pretty good job of, as it becomes a finer, more finite resource, we do principally do a better job of saving people. But
If you saw when he showed where we're getting our water and that was kind of 50-50, that was a number of years. And if you look, the total amount taken is pretty flat.
And we don't
that's
want to,
with, that's with all of the add-ons that we've done in the last 5 years. You know, so we've done a lot of growth. And just to his point, you know, you always anticipate, oh, that's gonna mean these big jumps. But it doesn't jump as much as you think. And because of all the little things that you do that encourage the conservation in that, and that's before we did major conservation efforts.
do we want to be 50-50 or do we want to be like 70-30?
We want to be
What's the
100.
ideal?
We want to be 100 out of the
100% right.
wells.
Okay.
yes, well, I usually would be 100% on. So, just to switching gears to this second groundwater location. Here's your guys' existing well field here, being with the golf course. Here's your, water treatment plant. Way up the actual long, bit of infrastructure to get into town. You probably don't care about the geology, maybe you do. Yeah, so. This is the basin. There's a big old glacier that came down the icicle here, plowed it out, made a big bathtub in here. And then filled it all in with dirt. So, and it crops, Boulder Bend down here is actually the bedrock exposed. You can really envision it being bounded on all sides. So the idea is, yeah, is try and find the most productive zones within this giant bathtub for another source. So how we did that is we looked at all the well logs, that have been drilled in the Leavenworth Valley. Tease out which ones have good data, bad data, which most of them have bad data, and I mean bad quality data. They don't, the well driller, you can't read his hand right, or he didn't fill out if he even found water, or how much water he found, or 0 to 100 feet is just called dirt. You really kind of have, or it doesn't have a location. What does it do when you get there?
Guess what?
So we were able to tease out a few things, pull out some decent data in the 500 or so well logs we looked at. We're able to make a nice little top of groundwater surface model, which played into the part of this effort was looking at your water rights, making sure if there was any fatal flaws and whether or not we could move surface water rights down to a potential groundwater source. And the reality of that is mostly not, there's mostly no restrictions, except for we probably can't go north of town up towards Hill. And even just being in town, we need to be pretty close to the river to make that argument to help. Out, so here's depth of bedrock, so you can kind of see how deep that bathtub is in various locations. So it's deepest down by the hatchery, kind of thins out, there's some pretty thin sections by shore, pole here. And it gets a little deeper again where your existing, well field is. Then we don't have a ton of data, so we gotta make some fillers. And then it actually gets deep again up by Ski Hill. And then teasing out in the good well logs. So an aquifer isn't just wet dirt, right? It has to be coarse enough that you can extract since lots of water from. So looking at the actual aquifer material identified in the well logs. The hatchery is sitting on the gold mine down there. And you're in a pretty decent little pocket, and there may be one other decent one just south of the boat ramp. That's kind of about it. There's some pretty decent ones up on Ski Hill, but I don't think we can move your water rights up there. More pre-drafts looking at, this is, general well capacity, so how much the various wells can pull, which is a bit, it's a bit of a skewed data set because if you don't need a lot of water, you're not gonna report being able to withdraw a lot of water. So, actually, you guys are really the only ones to withdraw a lot of water. And that's a geologic key term. This is like kind of the best of all things. You can see there's a hotspot around them. That's a little bit spot around you guys. Took a look at some non-HG limitations. We looked at the golf course as potential options and found that the landfill along portion of it is actually why the golf course as well is now down amongst your well field. The green up there is the FEMA flood zone, so not a deal breaker, but not ideal either. And then the real key to this one is the purple parcels. So the biggest hindrance to this project has been access to properties. We really only have access so far to your guys' properties. And your guys' properties are great right here, but they're not necessarily great everywhere else. So that's kind of the point we're at right now, is just trying to find a property owner that's in one of these maybe better areas, not red colors, and whether or not they'll give us access to drill some test wells. Okay, questions?
Well, I want to give you access. Wouldn't that potentially be lucrative for them, the city, to buy those rights for a certain period of time, or lease the land? What's the resistance
We can't get
between?
leases. That was actually a deal breaker on a property already. They wanted to lease it, and the Department of Health doesn't let you come in for growth based on leases. You have to control the source. Some of it, I think, is general not wanting to work with government.
Yeah.
Some of it is, yeah, what exactly am I getting out of it?
Well, it starts and stops with what you just said, so you don't need to continue. You don't need to answer that question. It's answered with the health department won't allow you
Yeah,
to use.
for the leases, yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't move
Certainly just
anybody.
other people, we've been shot down by a lot of people so far.
Yeah.
And their reasons are quite variable. A lot of it is, there is no real incentive for them.
Yeah, sure. That's fair, right?
So,
Are we dead in the water at the moment, or are we still?
no, Andy, bless her heart, is plugging away and making great progress. She turns out quite charming. I have a ton of faith.
You shouldn't, but.
I have a ton of faith.
If you want me to go door knocking with you, I will.
We basically done that.
You've done that.
Just kidding.
You've knocked on this particular door several times over a 2-year span. And it's not a no yet. So
Oh, it's good.
it is good.
We're the closest we've been yet.
Yeah, correct. Hopefully by October, we have real data, we have wells in the ground. And we'll know whether or not this particular site is a vital site. At which point we'll probably be, really figuring from the expo. So it'll be time for you guys to decide where you want to go with it.
So what happens then? So it's like, hey, we strike gold, and the property owner's like, cool, here's the price for the property, and they,
The way we're being strategic with how we're handling that, so,
Yeah.
we would be looking at signing a purchase and sale agreement up front that would have conditions. And that way we would identify what that would look like ahead of time, then we would drill, and then if it's successful and all of our conditions are met, then we would be able to purchase the
so
property.
everybody's gonna take a chance on it. Yeah, that's fair.
Or the idea of being at least in the initial agreement is like, here's the steps we will follow to come to a mutual agreement price. The real thing is, okay, so what if we strike gold? It's still gonna be on you guys, then do we want a well field?
Yeah.
Do we want to go out and build a well field? Like, there's gonna be a lot of costs associated with building a new facility. Not that there's not a lot of costs with just maintaining their existing, so
or replacing that existing source will be the most expensive.
Absolutely. Replacing the icicle, treatment plant up there, or just improving it will be.
So Adam, are there tests to this property, second source?
Yep.
Are there already test wells being done or in the process?
No, we have, yeah.
Because we don't have access.
Andy is greasing the skids as we speak.
Okay,
We have a figure for where the wells will go. It's a fairly big property, so we're gonna try and do two on one property. We have specs drafted up, so as soon as we get an agreement, we should be able to go out and get drillers on board, and then we are at the whim of their schedule and when they can get us lined up. But there's gonna be a few other hurdles we have to check just with the ecology strings attached, so we're gonna have to do some wetland delineation, and we're gonna have to do a cultural resource survey. Stuff like that,
okay.
but, yeah. Hopefully by the fall, fingers crossed.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hopefully next year's better.
Yeah, all right.
I did want to find out, you mentioned diverting the cemetery, like using irrigation water for the cemetery?
Yeah, the irrigation, or the cemetery has irrigation rights. And that was one of the things I don't know if it made it into the conservation plan, but it was a thing we talked about, is just switching that back over to irrigation water.
We actually talked about it in a meeting today, and our plan is to make that switch later this year.
So we're gonna do it.
Yeah, now that the COIC has their new main in it, that was one of
It's
our.
a forced main now, where it's been a covered forced main, so it's taking clean water and keeping it clean, basically. I mean, my understanding, the reason we got off of it, we just too much maintenance to keep it clean.
Irrigation water.
Irrigation
Yeah, right.
water, because it was just an open.
Okay.
Open trough.
But now it's gonna be good water. Right. We are ready then for a public hearing. This is a public hearing to consider adoption of amendments to the Worth Municipal Code, sections 504070 and 1414-085. Clarify regulatory requirements. Maybe it will give us a staff report and then we'll take public comment.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, Council. This is kind of a request that came in last month from the farmers market. I think it was March 11th that we met. There was some concern about exemptions that we have in our code for certain businesses. This minor change just removes a single word to allow farmers that are selling processed farm products such as jam, cheese, things like that, to be exempt from acquiring a business license. And they're currently not taxed, so on these taxing these items, so it just makes sense to not require that. So that's really in its simplest form what we're requesting for your consideration. I am available if you have any questions.
Understand what the issue is?
Covered pretty thoroughly, I think.
Or? Okay.
Is I guess that one question was the unprocessed or processed stuff that they're gonna sell. Who monitors that?
The farmer's market, yeah.
Yeah.
When they have vendors come in, they double check that.
Okay.
And the alcohol did not pass.
Correct. We're not looking at changing our parks code at this point in time, just this section.
Just allowing this one little change.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and make a motion if anybody says.
Well, we're just still in the public hearing. We'll get to that. These are the public hearing.
Gotta wait.
And there's actually a second part to this
Yeah.
public hearing as well. So there's two little tweaks here that we're doing to our.
Do you want to call the public hearing open? Is there
Oh,
call to order for that?
You call it open.
I called it open.
You did, okay.
7:53.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the second piece has to do with. Yes, maybe.
All right, we'll start. So this second piece is in LMC 1414-085. This is to clarify requirements for ADUs in the urban growth area. There's been some issues with folks trying to add an accessory dwelling unit when they live in the urban growth area because the language was not clear. When we asked the county to adopt several of our codes last year, they put them on hold because of this piece specifically. So changing this and adding some clarifying language that is very clear. I have run it by the Chelan County Community Development Director already. Says it's clear. This would just allow property owners to build those ADUs in UGA. So it is a really important change.
Very, very much a need for this.
Yeah, I'm sure you may have heard from constituents, but there are several projects that are held up because of this. So we're hopeful to push this through and for the county to adopt it. I'm available if you have.
Any other questions and any comments from anyone in the public and this public hearing on either of these issues? Not seeing any. Then we will go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:56. And we'll move on then to our items of business. Again, just a reminder, we are respectful of each other as we go through these. It's okay, we can disagree. Prior to making comments, please be recognized by the chair. You come forward, state your name and address, and address the council as a whole, not individuals, and keep their comments focused on the topic that is being discussed at the time. So with that, we'll go on to our resolutions, ordinance, orders. And the first thing we'll take up is the extension of the purchase and sale for the Norland Lane that we had taken out of consent agenda. Selby.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, at your last meeting, I told you that what we'd be reviewing tonight would be a different purchase and sale for just one lot after a boundary lot adjustment. But the owner changed his mind after going through the process. So what is before you is just a pretty straightforward purchase and sale. The only two changes here are we're clarifying that in section 8 that the feasibility contingency ends after any decision from the hearing examiner is no longer eligible to be appealed, or after any appeals are done. And the other one is that we'll, by the end of December is our final date for executing this, or it goes null and void. We'll take further action to move forward.
Any questions? So those are the changes. Do you want to make comment? Did you have any comment?
Yes, I have.
Can you come up? State name and address.
Ellen Beardsley, I live at 58 Marley. Thank you. And I guess my question to the council first is, do you fully understand the changes in the extension in this event? If you put that up. I don't know if I could direct a question to you, Mayor, about what does the extension mean in practical terms?
Means it gives us enough time to get the decisions made that whether we can do what our intention is to make a parking place for our river users. So that has to go through a process, and this just buys us the time to not have to do an extension once more. Gives us hopefully enough time.
Okay, well, I think this language is a little different. The change in the amendment is much different than originally drafted. The original draft had a 9 days from the date of the agreement. This is now changing to the later of July 15th or 15 days after a decision
of Chelan County Heritage Center is final and not subject to any further appeal. Permitting the construction. So tell me what happened on July 16th. And the Chelan County says, nope, this you doesn't pass. The way this is drafted, it gives the city another bite at the apple. And another bite at the apple until December 31st. Read it carefully.
We're not gonna bite an apple that doesn't allow us to do what we intend to do. If
Permitting the construction, this is faulty drafted language. It says permitting the construction. So we have to wait until it's issued and permitted. So it's wrong. And really the bigger issue here is the city is moving too fast in making this decision. I think the process to approve the purchase of these two pieces of property.
One, right?
That's two, still both.
Still both pieces, right?
I'm gonna read my statement.
Okay.
So I'm not here to make enemies or break friendships. I'm here to ensure that the city is making sound, transparent decisions. After full and fair review, facts, and the evaluation of the impacts of their decision. This is really not just about a parking lot. It's about something much larger. The city has been studying, as you know from the earlier session, the problems and the community concerns regarding the use of our roads. Putting aside public transparency, you are disregarding those studies. And despite an alternative solution, you are pursuing a project without fully addressing environmental, safety, and traffic consequences. As some of you may know, I am an attorney. I work in securities and corporate governance, where I ensure that companies are making accurate, transparent disclosures to the shareholders. That means sometimes I'm exposing uncomfortable truths. But by doing so, I am protecting the company and its leaders. And most importantly, it builds trust. Trust among the investors, the vendors, and the customers. City government may be different than a publicly traded company, but it has the fiduciary responsibilities are greater. You are entrusted with taxpayer money, and you are empowered by the public to serve the public, not to sidestep scrutiny or obscure critical details. And yet, the key elements of this transaction, including the terms, the intended use, and the long-term impacts, have been shielded from the public. The frequent illegal use of executive session to discuss matters that clearly deserve open deliberation only adds to this erosion of trust. Tonight's proposed extension compounds that problem. The revised feasibility contingency lacks meaning because it removes the 90-day cap. This creates an open-ended pathway to keep this project alive even after a conditional use permit is denied. And I'll repeat. That is not how contingencies work. And in this case, a denial of a CUP is a signal from Chelan County that the intended use does not comply with zoning, environmental regulations, or the public interest. To ignore that outcome and keep going, trying to get another bite of the apple, is irresponsible. I supported many of you at the ballot box because I believe in your commitment to this community. That's what makes this process so disappointing. The city's pattern of opaque, rushed decision-making has eroded public trust. And that trust, once broken, is hard to regain.
Right. I would entertain a motion on this item.
I have a question
Okay.
Yeah.
before we do that. Are you the property owner? I missed that.
Yeah.
I'm the
Yes.
neighbor.
You're the neighbor, okay. The address is really close and I didn't look at it, like, okay, whoa, is she showing us the property here? Okay, you're the neighbor, okay.
And I have another neighbor.
The other neighbor on the other side, adjacent to the property or just
It is, we use the shared well.
shared well? Is the property owner here?
No. I would again entertain a motion. This is again to extend, and it's done openly, and the public process is, this kicks off a public process. It doesn't circumvent a public process. So I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the extension of purchase and sale agreement for 37 and 81 Nordling Lane.
Second.
And move, was that you, Travis?
Yeah.
Travis, second. Any other discussion?
I would just like to say that I thought that the language in the extension was very clear as to our ability to seek the approval of a conditional use permit, which is contingent on our ability to purchase the property for that designated use. It also gives us, gives the city as well as any community member the ability to appeal that permit and for us to keep our purchase and sale agreement alive through that appeal process.
Thank you. Anybody else? Right, seeing none.
I have a question.
Okay, what?
I just don't quite understand why you think this isn't open.
Sure, it continues, basically, Chelan County. The city can put in a conditional use permit application. And the county can approve it or deny it. The language only permits, the trigger is upon approval. And then you have the 15 days after the approval. If they deny it, you can submit another application.
And so that is in the city's best interest.
Not necessarily, I don't think it's in the public best interest for the city to continually try and push the limits of what.
You don't know if we're continually trying.
And the
So let's-
opaqueness and the mistrust that you've
Okay.
presented. I'm not
Let's
sure I
bring it
understand
back
that.
here. She's given her opinion, but we've got something before us that we have to act on. And so I would, if you're done. with
I
your
just wanted that
question.
clarification, so thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion to extend this purchase and sale agreement as defined, let me see your hands. Any opposed?
Maybe I should have abstained beforehand, but
I'm abstaining.
Abstaining, two abstentions.
this
I
started
need more,
before I came
yeah.
on board and I don't,
Okay,
I wasn't really part of the original process. I don't want to be making a decision now on it.
okay, it was 5 with 5-4, 2 abstentions.
Why are you abstaining?
Yes.
Ms. Waters, you have to explain it.
Well, to tell you the truth, all of a sudden, I can't find it in here. So I don't know what my notes were on it. And I'm not ready.
All right, it is passed. We will go on to ordinance 1709, adoption of the clarification in 504070, and I believe this is the one with the dealing with
The
farmers market.
Yeah,
Okay,
since I already gave a presentation.
Yeah.
Just, and we did combine these into the same meeting just for the sake of time, because the farmers market is starting out next month. So we are, staff is asking the council to consider adopting this change.
Can I make a motion now?
Yes, now you can.
The Leavenworth City Council moves to adopt ordinance 1709 amendments to sections 5.04.070 and 14.14.085 of the Leavenworth Municipal Code to clarify regulatory requirements.
Second.
Okay, we need one.
Yeah, modify that motion.
Yeah. You're just doing 504.070.
Okay.
Okay.
It
You
got
might
changed
move
after
do it
the
again.
fact,
Okay.
Sorry.
The Leavenworth City Council moves to adopt ordinance 1709 amendments to sections 5.04.070
Yep.
of the Leavenworth Municipal Code to clarify regulatory requirements.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mike, seconded by Shane. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, let me see your hand. It passes unanimously. Now we have 1710.
Yes, thank you. This ordinance would amend the section 14.14.085 of the LMC to clarify the requirements for ADUs and their utility connections in the urban growth area. And staff is asking the council to consider.
Shall I just keep going?
No,
You can.
this one.
You want that one?
Yeah. Leavenworth City Council moved to adopt ordinance 1710 amendments to section 14.14.085 of the Leavenworth Municipal Code to clarify regulatory requirements.
Second.
Okay, moved by Shane, seconded by Mike. Any other questions? All those in favor, let me see your hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you all.
One question I have,
Yeah,
was there another form that came through after this first came out? Because in my page, it's all one
Yes.
motion.
Yes.
The attorney, after reviewing the packet after it went out, advised that we break these into two separate ordinances.
we had them together and he
Oh.
said,
And that was sent out somehow?
I thought Andrea was sending out the refreshed ones tonight. The
Yeah,
links
I
were gonna be
did.
refreshed.
Yeah.
The links refreshed.
Okay.
On paper.
I never saw it.
Yeah.
oh, you didn't get the refreshed?
Well, and I sent out the email with them a couple of days ago. With the two
Okay,
ordinances.
all right.
now we're.
Sorry.
Substance is the same, it's just.
Right.
I did.
Oh, yeah, I know that. I just.
We're at item 11.
We're at 11.
Here, extension.
So our next item is resolution 09-2025, welcoming immigrants. And again, this is one that we had brought up once, decided to set it aside while we got more information. We brought Northwest Immigration Rights Project came and made a presentation, talked about what they're dealing with, what they're seeing, the importance of passing something like this for our immigrant population. And I think since that time, we've seen multiple examples of the difficulties that are being faced by this community, not just those without green cards either. So it's been very, very challenging, and I think it behooves us to support our immigrant population. I would entertain a motion.
Leavenworth City Council moves to approve resolution 09-2025 to welcome immigrant workers to Leavenworth.
Second.
Moved by Zeke, seconded by Mike, third by Ann. Any other comments? And I think maybe we've got somebody in our audience that would like to comment.
Yeah.
Yes, come on up. If you could come up here and give us your name and address, just up to the podium. Thank you.
My name is Irma Cadena. I appreciate the invitation that the Lori gave me to be here and speak on the topic of inclusion of the Latino community in the city of Leavenworth. I have been a resident of this city since 2018, and I have been a U.S. citizen since 2023, thanks to the support of the hand team and Mr. Norma Reyero. I come here with my daughter at the invitation of of my sister, and because I believe I have a better life here. And like me, many people have come here for many years, or Latinos and from other countries, making their way for a dream, for a goal, a better life. Some people, despite knowing the risk is coming without permission from the US government, they are here to work hard and support their families. They have dedicated valuable time to jobs, growing their personal finances and local economy. Our new generation are here steady, becoming part of the workforce socially and economically. It is concerning to me to hear my coworkers' fears about the new government administration. They fear being deported and separated from their families. I wish there were other ways to make them stay in the country legal. I certainly believe in the organization that accepts you, so that they are granted the opportunity to reside and work with documentation. And I thank you in advance for listening to me.
Thank you.
So, I love this city. I love my jobs. I like it. The city council will help my people. Sorry, I am nervous.
Doing great.
You're looking to your daughter for help, it looks like.
Yeah. Like she's the same team, but like I'm trying to help. Me gustaría que ayudaran a mi comunidad, a mis compañeros de trabajo que se preocupan por sus familias. They would like to so we work. Me gustaría que ayudaran a la gente latina a legalizarse. La gente que vive alrededor. Like, you both help my people to stay in the city, so they feel comfortable to be here, working safe, like feeling safe to be here, so they don't have like a fear to be.
We would like you to feel safe.
Yeah.
We would like to see this. Yeah. Right.
Por cierto, tu inglés es fantástico.
Yo ensayé. No es muy fuerte, pero puedo entender más de lo que dicen, pero no puedo contestarlo tan rápido.
My Spanish is poquito.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? We'll take a vote. All those in favor of resolution 09-2025, let me see your hands. Passes unanimously. Thank you all. And thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you.
Resolution 11-2025, federal grant certification, Andy.
Yeah, that's me. Sorry, you're trying, don't let me.
Sorry, I've done a lot of that today.
Nope.
No, I didn't do it. Just distracted, okay.
This really is just a formality, just designating who's able to sign for WashDOT federal grant reimbursement requests. Right now, Chantel is the only one eligible to sign, and so we are expanding the positions that are available to sign for these, and then also taking names off, so it's only positions. This was recommended by WashDOT, and again, this is for grants that have already been approved by the city council. This is just the reimbursement request process. So we pay up front, and then we submit invoices for reimbursement from WashDOT. And I'm here if you have any questions.
Entertain a motion.
Leavenworth City Council moves to approve Resolution 11-2025 federal grant certification requirements for reimbursement requests with WSDOT.
Second. Moved by Mike, seconded by Zeke. Any other questions? All those in favor, let me see your hand. Passes unanimously. And Selby, supporting the Salmon Life Cycle Learning Landscape Project.
Thank you, Mayor. After Jason Lundgren from the Cascadia Fisheries presented his salmon life cycle learning landscape project proposed for the fish hatchery, he approached the city and asked for an updated resolution from the 2013 resolution that the council at that point in time had adopted supporting this project. Before you for your consideration is the exact same resolution, just with an updated date. This does not commit us to anything other than providing emotional support for the project.
And gives them a chance to go after others.
Grants.
Oh, yeah, sure.
The Leavenworth City Council moves to approve resolution 12-2025 supporting the salmon lifecycle learning landscape project at the Leavenworth Fish Hatchery.
Second.
Moved by Shane, seconded by Sharon. Any other questions? All those in favor, let me see your hands. And it passes unanimously. Curb ramp improvements bid award, Andy.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So tonight, we're asking the council to approve the curb ramps project with First Construction. As a reminder, this project came to you back in, I think, 2023. And with a grant agreement from TID. So ultimately, the purpose of this project is to replace the ADA curb ramps that are deficient. And when we accepted the money for the scrub seal and for the street maintenance project, or I guess actually it was before even applying for all those, I've been working with TID to look at how we can have this coordinated effort of ongoing maintenance on our streets, but also looking at bigger capital projects to actually rebuild the structure of the road. One of the biggest limitations we have in order to do like a mill and fill, anything where we grind asphalt and repave, do an overlay, anything like that, we have to have all of the curb ramps that road touches be ADA compliant before we're able to move forward with any structural improvements. So there's actually very limited streets in town that have sufficient utilities underneath. And this really targeted streets that do have sufficient utilities that would qualify for any of those structural improvements, with the limitations being curb ramps. So we designed the project, and we also acknowledged that costs escalated so much through the design phase that we wanted to have what I guess I was kind of considering like the bare minimum ramps included, but then we also had these additive alternatives for the additional locations that we originally planned, but with costs escalating, knew it might not be feasible to do all of them. So that's why in the bid tabs, you'll see that there's schedule A, B, C, and D. What we're recommending based off the cost is only implementing schedule A and only awarding for schedule A. This does still include 28 curb ramps. They are all along Commercial Street and Mine Street. And so in working through all the locations, those ones that are a priority, obviously Commercial Street is heavily used. A lot of pedestrian traffic down there. The ramps are relatively new, but one of the biggest limitations we have down there is the truncated domes are not compliant. So 8th, 9th, 10th, and Division will all be approved along Commercial Street. And then on Mine Street, we're looking at areas that are primarily impacted by residents of the senior senior housing, so the affordable senior housing, and we also have Mount Meadows in that location where people walk. So that's the intersections of Prospect, Park, Meadows, and Tumwater. So addressing the curb ramps where all of those roads intersect Line Street. So we advertised this to contractors, we received 5 bids, and first was the lowest bidder. I'm here if you have any questions. Yeah.
Does this, I scoured this and maybe I missed it, but does this include the cast iron inserts that you talked about a while back?
Yes.
Okay, it's not gonna be the one with the fiberglass
It
ones?
will not be fiberglass.
Okay.
No, so that's what we moved to our standard is all our cast in place cast iron codes.
Okay, great.
Thanks for asking.
Question about division and commercial, the dentist office there. You said division and commercial. It's
Yes.
right at the very end, like Mana, like it's the
Yeah,
chief
yeah.
of division. Is that one of the corners?
I believe it is.
It's the one with the undulating corner. The sidewalk is just,
Well, I'm trying to remember, we might not be touching that right, but it might only be the 2 that are on the commercial street leg itself.
there are 2 new kind of paths that were done
Yes,
that were not corners.
yes, it's
So,
those 2.
yeah,
And I can't remember, is there a ramp that then crosses division?
yeah.
Like if you were to go. to
Yeah,
the
and
south?
it's mid-street, yeah, not a corner, but
Yeah, I don't believe that one's being touched. I think it's just the ones that would serve crossing.
okay. Yeah.
And that's off memory, I'm sorry.
It's a bigger question, I guess, of who's responsible for fixing curbs? It's a corner that may have been, I thought was gonna be done in this capacity. But is it the city's responsibility to fix sidewalks? Okay.
Well, yes, Dan. It
I'm
depends
asking.
on exactly what you're asking. Are you talking? Cause
Broken sidewalks.
yes,
Is that the city or the resident?
in our code, it says that it's the responsibility of the adjacent property owner.
The resident, right? Okay, so,
To fix the broken sidewalk?
yeah,
Yeah, it says sidewalk maintenance is the responsibility of the adjacent property.
so when
owner.
you look at, if you're doing a corner, and this, taking what I said out of this,
Yeah.
this particular corner,
Yeah.
any corner, if we're gonna if we're gonna do those with the ADA compliance, if there's adjacent sidewalks that need fixing, is this just, they wouldn't touch those, you wouldn't even address those, it's just like, you're gonna fix that, you're just gonna do
The ramps.
I mean, it varies, like if there's a location where there's something immediately adjacent to a ramp that's a deficiency, and it would be one of my sidewalk middle, I
It
would
wouldn't cost
probably
that
make the
much, right?
decision to move forward with that. A
Okay.
lot of these, when I did the cost estimating initially, I assumed that we would be replacing like 15 feet of sidewalk on either side from each ramp, just to tie them back in smoothly.
Okay.
And then also just deal with some of the deficiencies that are right near that location.
That's
We're not required, I mean, there are also limitations, there's reasons you want to include more sidewalk, because you have. Anyway, I don't need to get into the details, but you're held to a cross slope, and if you're tying it to something that's like.
clearly, yeah,
Be dramatic, like an 8% cross slope versus you're trying to hold it 2%. You have to be far enough away from the ramp to have that transition piece, otherwise your ramp is once again
yeah.
not
gonna be-
compliant.
So that was a part of when you
So-
evaluated this, and this bid includes, they've identified those, and they know there's gonna be extra stuff, so it's not just what I'm thinking is like a corner,
No,
piece. the ramps itself.
on commercial, it generally is more just the landing.
I'm saying overall,
But-
so take whatever I said out of it, but, so they've looked at doing more.
Yeah.
If it's
And
necessary.
again, like when we're going in and doing a sidewalk project, yes, it's in our code that it's on the adjacent property owner, but that's not our expectation that a property owner would improve in like a deficient curb ramp, right?
So you're not going, hey, look, we
It's just-
see that we're gonna redo this ADA compliant corner, and you need to fix this part because we're doing this, and you're, okay, good. You're not going like door to door.
No.
Okay.
No.
I figured you weren't.
It's honestly, we just deal with those on a complaint basis.
Yeah.
Or claim basis.
I just have one quick comment.
Yeah.
Where the playground area is, when you come out of the playground area and turn to go across the street. I guess it's an ADA ramp, it's a ramp, but it's black, the street's black. Maybe if they could paint 2 yellow lines, one on each side.
Yeah,
Okay.
we could definitely do that. And that one, I'll be honest, is a really interim solution. So right there's just an asphalt ramp. Because we needed something to at least have it be quasi accessible to get up to a ironically accessible playground.
Playground.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to completely build a new ramp there. while we are still looking at improvements. to the
Yeah.
entire property.
Just,
But yeah.
I'm worried
Yeah.
about,
No,
because
thank you, Sharon. Yeah, we can do that.
I would entertain a motion.
Leavenworth City Council moves to accept the construction bid and authorize the mayor to execute a contract with Hearst Construction in the amount of $270,709, excluding Washington State sales tax for bid Schedule A, base bid.
Second.
Second by Ann, you were just louder, Ann, that's all. Any other questions? All those in favor, let me see your hands. Passes unanimously. And still, Andy, consultant supplemental agreement.
Yeah, so this is for Ardura, who is our on-call transportation engineer. He designed the project to see this project through construction, so they'll be up here for all the on-site observation, project management, construction support, which includes like the estimates and change orders and RFIs and all those types of things. Just acting on our behalf during the construction phase as well.
Leavenworth City Council moves to approve and authorize the mayor to execute consultant supplemental agreement number 1 with Ardura Group, Inc. for construction administration services of the curb ramp improvement project, increasing the total contract not to exceed amount to $81,212.
Second.
Oh, boy. They all tried to be loud this time. I guess I shouldn't have said that, Ann. Shane, got Mike moved, Shane seconded. Any other questions?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, so this, I'm just trying to visualize what this is. This is the water stuff coming from the well, right?
No, this one
this
also
is not the overseeing?
this is the same curb ramp project, but just the construction admin of that.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they're doing the paperwork on it, or sort of like supervision.
Supervision.
Yeah, an inspection.
Inspections.
Got it. I didn't know where that was.
Yes. Okay, any other questions? All those in favor, let me see your hands. Passes unanimously. Chantel, enterprise fleet vehicle purchase. And circle.
All right. While Andrea's pulling that up, I've got a lot to say, because as you read in your write-up, we're running on a very fast schedule here. So I'm just gonna give you some kind of preliminary information, and then we'll go through the spreadsheet and documentation that Andrea did send out today. So what we're looking at is the enterprise fleet management for rotation of vehicles. What I want you to be aware of is, as we look at the spreadsheet, know that when you see some of the dollar totals for the budget that were originally done, know that those totals were identified many, many years ago. And so when you're seeing that it's 20 grand to replace a truck, well, 7, 8 years ago, when it was put together, that truck did cost only 20 grand. So today that truck may cost double that. We saw a lot of increase in vehicles after COVID happened, but now we've got tariffs in play as well. And I can tell you that on a daily basis, things are changing and things are going up. We had on this schedule on Friday, 3 Tacomas that were cheaper than 3 Ford Rangers. And Friday they said, Tacoma said, no more, we're done, because the prices have gone up. So they've stopped even just taking orders for the Tacomas. We can't even get those. So that's just kind of the area we're in, not to scare you, not to put fear into you. No, we don't have to purchase everything we want, but keep that in the back of your mind. The longer we wait, possibly the more difficult and the more prices will go up. That's not to say that after a year or two, after this tariff war settles down, that things may level out. But how many of us have ever seen prices actually go down after they've gone up? I don't know about that one. The other one I want to point out is Public Works and Finance. We're looking at trying to get together in June. And we're going to be reassessing our entire ER&R schedule. We want to look at the existing ratings of each piece of equipment that we have. This includes the things that we're not going to go through enterprise fleet management with, but it's just been a long time and we have a new mechanic on board and we have just new staff. So we're going to look at the ratings and we're going to look at the years of service. In general, most of these 150s, 250s, 350s, SUVs that we do have in stock now. We have them built on our schedule to be replaced between 15 and 25 years, depending on which department they're in, how often they're used. A lot of them, we only put a couple thousand miles a year on them. So having a truck for 25 years wasn't too far-fetched when we built the schedule. But as you guys learned from your presentation with Enterprise, we can find a sweet spot and we can rotate faster, which will give us more money on the return side when we're selling them. So that's our goal. We currently, with new ones coming in line, I think we're around 25 total vehicles for use in this program. I think when we first went to Enterprise, we were at 21. So we do have a few new ones that are getting into the queue. So if we did look at at least 5 per year, that would put us on a 20 or 5 every year. So we would be able to start rotating. Within 5 years, we would have all 25 in our fleet going every 5 years. We could keep some longer, so that's part of the two departments getting together and thinking about that. With our motion tonight, we do want to have a little flexibility because even though we went through all these quotes, we looked at them. After we got off the phone, we thought about other things like, well, do we really need an all-wheel drive SUV for City Hall? So we may be looking at one that doesn't have to be all-wheel drive, which will bring down the price tremendously. Some other thoughts that we would like to hear from you is in the past, councils have said they did want us to move towards EV. So for a few of the vehicles you're going to see today, we have recommended some EVs. We have learned though that the EV market is not good on the bigger trucks. They just don't have the oomph and the power that those 350s need, possibly even the 250s. So right now, we're not looking at EVs for the trucks themselves, but ultimately, if we did go EV route, we know we've got some EVs right here, charging stations in our lot, but we would also have a goal of probably installing one near the car wash and the parking department. So did I cover just the basics?
Yeah, I think so. Though I guess the only other thing which you might already have in here, one of these trucks, we're able to decrease the size. We're looking at 2,500 and we're going to reduce to 1,500. So like Chantel said, you might have already included it.
It is already changed.
Oh,
So is this all on the recommendation? You've sounded this off of the Enterprise guy, because from what I understand, right? If the F-150 is actually more valuable than the 250 and some of these things come into play, then power, I mean, this is all kind of washed through, sounded off of them. With your needs.
Yeah, they did a great presentation to show us which vehicles get the best bang for their bucks.
Yeah.
They're looking at operational costs, fuel costs, all these different pieces. And so they were like, okay, this Chevy Colorado is going to be better than this Ford Ranger or.
Yeah, I get all that. So I'm saying, when your recommendations here, I've already been, you've worked with them and this is the plan that everybody's come.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me go through these from top to bottom. So this very first one is the 2010 Chevy Colorado. And in this column, this is what we're going to replace them with. So we've got 3 Ford Rangers, 3 Equinox EVs, a Chevy Silverado 1500 long bed, and a Chevy Silverado 3500. Sorry, Mom. I should have worn my glasses. Now we look at this one.
Ford Ranger.
The Chevy Colorado, I want to point out, there has been question as to keeping it and not surplusing it. Just because it's as old as it is and the mileage that's on it, it's not going to be worth anything to sell it anyways. And we've gotten all the additional stuff. So we may ask that we not surplus this particular one. Is that still the cue?
I think so, and then you could always choose to surplus it later.
Okay.
Or just the resale of it will be so low that it will be next to the second one next to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And these are all new vehicles, no miles on them?
Every one of these are 2025s. Yes, they're all brand new. Your second one, we're replacing, or we're not replacing. This was a brand new one. It is budgeted. It is over budget, so we had 47. The Ford Ranger is only 40,000. That is a new parks pickup. The third one down is a Dodge Ram, 2013. That one would be surplus. Our budget though was shortfall on that one. We only had 25,000 there. And again, we're looking at that Ford Ranger for 40. So there's the shortfall there. Note that this one though is 2028. I'll talk about 2028 and future years versus 2025 in a minute. Your fourth one down is a brand new one for parking enforcement vehicle. They do have funding in their budget. They actually have more than 50,000. They have 100,000, but part of this vehicle is we're going to be buying some special software for license plate reading. Is that correct, Selby?
Yes. And hardware, right, I assume?
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
what?
Camera readers will be hardware.
Yeah, license plate readers. I just promoted Joe to panels to some meeting.
Oh, great, wonderful. So that one's actually giving us a positive number because we budgeted 50 and the vehicle, I'm sorry, is only coming in at 39. That does give them more flexibility though to keep money in the parking fund to fund this equipment that they're looking at buying. Your fifth one down, new City Hall, no, it is not budgeted. So with the increase in staff upstairs, we have definitely had a problem. We only have one current vehicle that we own, which is also on this list. Right below it is the 2018 Ford Escape. And we've been renting from Hertz a EV type of vehicle. And even with two, I think you guys are challenged at times, right?
Yeah.
Between the two departments. So we've got public works staff as well as development staff having to go out into the field consistently for a lot of different reasons, but code enforcement as well as inspections. So our ask tonight would be if you were open to it, if we could get this one, even though it has not been budgeted. The Ford Escape is actually scheduled for 2038. But it is in a sweet spot right now that if we were to sell it, because it's only a 2018, we would fetch a really good price for it. And so we could get a second EV and have two identical EVs in our City Hall fleet, both of them electric vehicles. We did talk about those possibly though not being SUVs, which means all-wheel drive. So we could be looking at like, is yours a Bolt that's out there right now?
Yeah.
And they've said they've had it for the last year and it has been getting around great.
And so back to the parking enforcement, the Volt seemed like it'd be an appropriate car instead of an Equinox EV, saving us several bunch of money.
Yeah, we have people who can't. We have people who.
They can't fit in the vehicle.
Can't fit in the vehicle.
They're tall, they're very big people. I'm not gonna say that in a bad way, I'm just saying they're just very big people and literally trying to get them into a little.
So they've tried.
They tried.
They do.
Yes. And I believe they,
Well, big boned here.
I believe they did go check the Equinox out and.
They checked out, well, they checked out an equivalent. They checked out the
What?
the SUV we had back there.
The
whatever that is.
mini.
Ah, the Ford Escape.
Escape, which is the same size as the
Mini
Equinox,
Coopers.
and which is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're bigger.
So if we do, we could also upgrade to Ford Escapes, which are equivalent to the EV Equinoxes. They're
So
just
that's
not
the two that
EVs.
they're, okay. Okay, that just begs the question that they're all Equinoxes. It seems like there's purposeful, less expensive car, accommodating an employee. Okay, it's fine.
Yeah. And we were excited to try to jump into the EV world with a few and see how it goes.
For 2.9 cents a kilowatt hour, we're in a prime. Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
That's why we leased one.
Yeah.
This worked with.
Yeah, and happy Earth Day.
Yeah. Okay, I got 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, number 7, we're almost there.
Yes.
We're at the 2015 Ford, and this is actually our Public Works Supervisor Rick's main vehicle that he drives around. This is not one that goes out and plows, but it does have utility equipment and such on it. But this is the one that originally we were looking for something like a 2,500.
Yeah.
And he came back and said, you know, I can have something cheaper, a little bit smaller. So we're looking at a Chevy Silverado 1500, but he does need the 8-foot bed, not the 5.5-foot bed.
Yeah.
And that is part of price increase on that one.
Mhm.
And then your last one is the new utility crew pickup truck. It has been budgeted for $50,000. It is coming in at 67 because this is a Chevy Silverado 3500. And just so you're aware, there's an additional 18,000 on this particular truck because we're gonna put a full utility bed on it, which have like boxes and all kinds of other things, but that was budgeted for already in a separate line item within the ER&R fund. So we don't have to worry about that tonight as far as financing is concerned. Our goal with all of this is to purchase outright. We are not going to lease and pay the extra cost for interest or anything, because that would throw out the window the fact that we're making good decisions here, and financing just adds more costs. So all of this could feasibly come out of the ER&R fund if you wanted to fund all of it. My thoughts for you on making a decision tonight, you've got 5 of them in green. They're all labeled 2025. This one right here is not budgeted. This bottom line right here, 2025 only. So if you wanted to not look at these blue ones and wait on those a little longer, we could do that. I would ask that the motion for this 227 actually give us a not to exceed of 250. Just so we have flexibility should things change.
Right.
I'm literally going to be sending the documents to Joe tomorrow, signing them and saying, okay, let's move this forward because we can't wait. and
No,
have Another one,
yeah.
another entire company drop off.
Right.
How
So,
much are we paying to rent the Volt is it we have right now?
Yeah, well, I think we pay about $1,100 a month right now.
yeah, I was gonna say that.
So from what you were talking about, by buying this extra car, we're still having 2 cars, which isn't quite, it's barely enough.
The rental's gonna go away.
Rental will go away.
The rental has to go away.
And if we wanted to keep the Silverado or the Chevy Colorado, that could be when usage, that could limited usage, but could be used as that extra.
Yeah, we talked about why we don't need a 4-wheel drive with city hall vehicles. Part of that is if we do have someone that needs to travel in the winter, we can just borrow one from Public Works and take one of their trucks. So that's always an option, and that will help lower the price quite a bit. If you're willing to do all of it, then I would ask that this 350 give us up to 375, so not to exceed 375K. If you want to do all the 2025s, but not the one that wasn't budgeted, we would need to take off 40,000 from the 250, so give us 210 as a flexibility number.
We don't have any estimates of the surplus value of the ones, but right now you're giving us the ones in blue. The reason you're presenting them is this. When we got the presentation of how this works, the big advantage is strategically selling when resale value is highest, and that gives us the overall lowest cost of ownership, right? So that would be doing this.
Yes,
But
and
we don't have any data right now to tell us. It's just that the experts that we listened to and agreed to their proposal, they're telling us this is what we should do.
they are on board with that. The blue ones are the next 3 that were on the ER&R schedule for replacement, with exception to the 2038 one for the city hall current SUV.
I think that we enter this cautiously optimistic, in a way that, first of all, if the trade war continues longer than 4 months, I won't be on city council. I won't be able to live in this town because I'm going out of business. I am optimistic that things will happen in the next 30, 45 days. Prices will go down. I understand what you're saying. UPS increases their rate and they never go down. The price of vehicles will go down. So I don't believe that we should get. With that said, tourism is going to be down. Our foot traffic from Canada is down all over the country, especially us. I'm leery to just normally I would say, let's do them all, we're gonna do them all anyways, but I'm a little cautious right now, and I think that I'm not scared that the prices are gonna go up further if we don't do the ones in blue. If we can wait on those, that's what I think.
I guess I understand what you're saying. What gives me pause is that, not that I want to inject international politics in this, but it feels like the country that our current administration is digging their heels in the most about is the country that has the most to deal with automobiles.
Japan?
China.
Oh, the Toyota, we're talking about the Toyota.
I know, but yeah, but Japan, China, it is an international industry. Those parts are coming from those countries. So I guess I am pessimistic that the trade war, as it affects the automobile industry, there's going to be a quick resolution to this.
There will be quick, personally. There's already a quick resolution to microchips and iPhones. They didn't give me tax relief on my inflatable pillows coming from China. What's the point of that? But my cutouts for auto industry.
My question is that if the evolving tariff situation is affecting our baseline assumptions about what checks out financially, have we checked with Enterprise to see with them if a rapidly escalating price situation is going to affect their business model?
Joe's with us tonight, if you want to advance, Joe.
Joe's already
Oh,
panelist.
boy.
He can unmute himself and go ahead and address that question.
Good evening. Excuse me. Lucky for your sake, I have quite a cold. Yeah, it's a good question. It's one we get asked a lot, obviously. To be fair, predicting what Donald Trump is going to do about tariffs, it isn't a super doable task. Regardless of what anyone may or may not claim. If tariffs do come into effect and the price of vehicles goes up, which is a realistic possibility. It hasn't happened yet. The silver lining is that the resale market will come up to follow and help us recoup some of that, right? Price of new vehicles go up, then we can sell vehicles that are already on the ground for more. What happened during COVID, I think is maybe the closest simile that we've had. It's not apples to apples. And what happened with COVID is the resale market, due to the scarcity of vehicles coming in, which I think might be similar, absolutely skyrocketed. The problem was no one could get vehicles, and we weren't able to get everyone every vehicle they wanted, but we were able to get a lot of our government clients vehicles at the pricing you're supposed to be entitled to. And in that instance, and this isn't something we can do every year, but we sold vehicles for more than they paid for them, because the price on the front end wasn't as effective as the resale market was. I'm not saying that's exactly what's happened, but we've been through some pretty rocky times, and as long as we're proactive and strategic and smart about how we navigate it, I don't necessarily think it's all doom and gloom.
Thank you.
And do note that the prices that we have up here are cheaper than if you were to walk and go try to get this exact same vehicle on a lot. You're gonna pay more than what you're seeing on my list.
Right.
Did you fact check that?
John did. He actually checked it against the state pricing, which is cheaper than car lots too, and they were really close. Yeah.
It's hard to really quickly do an apples to apples comparison, but I remember in the presentation here, I was hearing like a thousands off with the purchasing power of Enterprise, and it doesn't straight away look like it's that great of a discount, but
It does depend on what's included with each vehicle, and in the documents I sent you, I did only send you the front page that showed you the total of each vehicle, but we actually got between 6 and 8 pages on every single one that includes all the details of all the parts and pieces to each one that are included. And our public works crew and parks crews looked at those very carefully and compared those to the state pricing.
Yeah.
So my thought is you've got 3 options potentially on a motion. Your first one is all 2025 that were budgeted, which is 4 of them. all 2025, which includes the one extra ED for City Hall that was not budgeted,
Yes.
please. And if you really want to give us a little extra wiggle room, you can go ahead and say all of them. But again, you know, we have no heartburn if you want to say just 2025. These other three will end up in the queue down the line.
I'm kind of in favor of being a little cautious and just going with the 5.
Yeah.
Sure. You know,
So all 2025s,
yeah,
I do like,
five of those, right?
that is five
Yeah.
of them, yeah.
I do like the idea of just keeping that Colorado. Do the mechanics have an opinion on keeping the Colorado?
Checked with him. That was our intention, but when we're just talking internally about the resale price. We're just expecting it to really blow.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like, you know, your last resort, we don't have a vehicle and that thing just gets limited use, but just because we don't sell it for much doesn't mean we want to dump money into maintaining it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was my
That
first
was our-
comment.
That is exactly what we talked about, was just surplusing that thing when something comes up.
Yeah. There's no reason to keep junk around and keep trying to keep it running. We got away from that with the schedule when I started working here. Definitely don't want to go back to that.
And we can always bring that one back to surplus after we touch base with them.
And I do recommend a motion for the surplus. It's kind of a little different, so, but I'll
So that 5 that they mentioned, that includes the one that wasn't budgeted.
correct.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm with Zeke on, I agree, but I do think we should say, don't surplus this Colorado, if that.
I would entertain a motion.
So in this motion, do we have to say who the agreement's with, or we just say?
well, I actually got them laid out here if you would like me to read it. And then you can just say so moved if you like the way I read it. So the Leavenworth City Council moves to approve the purchase of all 2025 vehicles for a total not to exceed of $250,000.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Shane, seconded by Clint. Any other discussion?
So that's the only choice?
No, that's just a motion that he made.
Nobody, I thought there was one where you just wanted to get all of them.
Yeah.
That was-
But
Based on the
That was one
two
option, but-
people who spoke up, that's what we wanted to make that motion, but there's.
To get all of them?
You get the
just
2025
okay.
recognition, so five
So-
vehicles.
Okay.
And wait on those others. Ron, you want to come up and make a comment?
I'm Duncan, 224 Cascade. So I think you know my opinion of the enterprise contract and the temptation to spend money to make enterprise profit that we don't really need to spend. You made your justifications that we needed to rush through because of the instability is never a valid, never, and I appreciate Travis bringing that up, that is not a valid reason to run out and buy a bunch of vehicles. That again, are actually functional. So if they're functional, you hang on to them and wait until it's a better season. The keeping the Colorado invalidates your whole argument that, we need this program because in reality, they're perfectly good vehicles. And as we decide to get rid of all our older trucks, we're not going to get any money for them, which the program promises, because they're not new enough. But there's no reason to replace them because they're still running. In fact, you want to keep it, which means this is a net add vehicle to the city, which is disingenuous. That's not, you're not replacing the vehicle because it needs to be replaced. It's a perfectly good vehicle. And you're buying a new one that wasn't budgeted, wasn't called for, which makes no sense. And I don't have any problem with buying new vehicles, even in an unstable season, because you need the new vehicle. We need to move the city forward. And getting rid of a rented vehicle, that seems to be a no-brainer. But I just think that I do appreciate that Travis cautioned on jumping because of that. That's not a valid justification. And I just think that this needs to be rethought. I think that if Colorado's good, there's no reason to replace it right now. And because otherwise, what are you doing with it? Are you moving it into another position where somebody needs it in a justified position? It's not, that doesn't make sense either. It's just, I have difficulty with blanket decisions and the three false choices that were provided as the only choices to the council. I think the council can make a more nuanced choice of what vehicles we actually need based on new vehicles and required replacements, especially given the economic climate we're in. So that's my input. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks. Any other questions, comments?
Oh, I take exception to that it's perfectly good. The reason to keep the Colorado is not because it's perfectly good. We're replacing it because it's got 155,000 miles and it's not suitable for everyday use. But a need was explained by the staff that we are frequently short a vehicle, and to have one that is gonna get us no resale value, but will be used intermittently at best for, crunch time, is a reasonable use of that vehicle. But it's not a daily driver from what I can tell from this. So, I don't agree with that assessment. And that's all I'm gonna say about it.
All right, any other questions, comments?
So just to note, there will be two motions. So this first motion is giving us the authorization to purchase, and then I'll go over the second for surplus.
Oh, for surplus?
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
So if the first one doesn't pass, we don't do the second one?
right.
Well,
Yeah.
if
You want
If we can't surplus, we didn't do
you
it
guys can
first.
throw another motion on the floor too.
If this one didn't.
Just wanted clarity.
But yeah,
All right, all those in favor of that motion for the 5 that were for 2025? Signify by raising your hand. 3, 4, 5. Those opposed? And
Abstain, car stuff is like way up here.
so we had 5, 1, and 1. 1 abstention, Sharon. All right, now, next motion is Chantel.
okay. So to make flexibility there for us with the Colorado in particular, the Leavenworth City Council moves to allow for the surplus of the vehicles listed for replacement this evening in the 2025 budget cycle.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Zeke, seconded by Shane. Any other questions? All those in favor, let me see your hand. And abstentions? No, no negatives, abstaining. Yes, Sharon abstained. All right, it passed. Thank you all.
I will report back where we land with this. As far as surplusing, I'll definitely work with Joe and Enterprise to see how that may look for us. But we may also use our public surplus because we know that has always resulted in some really high returns for us on our used trucks. We'll try to do the best we can.
Action item 17 is one that we added on called dust abatement. And I'm assuming that's you, Andy.
Thanks, Sam. So this is a project for a company to come in and apply the aluminum sulfate to 4 different locations: the Public Works campus, waterfront parking lot, East Leavenworth boat launch, and the Icicle Bridge put-in. With the bid items as they're broken out, one application. So it's per each, split into 2 different parking lot groups. So one group would be the Public Works campus and waterfront, the other would be the boat launch and the Icicle Bridge put-in. So the purpose of how this is broken out is because we need a contractor to mobilize in. We would have them do. Sorry, I'm not explaining this clearly. That way they would do 2 parking lots at a time when they move in, if we don't have them do all 4. So the way this is set up would be for them to come in to do all 4 of those parking lots 3 times over the year, but if we don't need them to do all of those applications, we just don't pay them for that. They're paid per application.
How many did we apply last year?
Last year, we only did one
That's
application.
what I thought.
Yeah. And we only applied a
Huh?
waterfront
It
and.
wasn't enough.
Oh, wasn't it enough?
Just to keep the dust down?
Yeah.
To keep the dust down, yeah, so we'll come in and grade the parking lots and then apply the lithium sulfate.
Can I speak to this? And if I have to, I'll recuse myself and it's time to vote because my business is right on the road down to Barn Beach. And I can tell you, if you wanna just be really like, disgusted isn't the right word, but stand on a balcony and look down on a busy day, on almost any summer day. And you're gonna see this massive cloud of dust and everybody, including lots of locals and lots of tourists, walk down that road every day and they're choking and people are diving for cover. I mean, it's just nasty.
Yeah.
It's nasty. And we've been complaining and so have all the other, other local business owners been complaining for years, but until we get, a permanent solution, something would be nice.
That's why I don't go down there.
It's so dusty. It's ridiculous. I think
It's
it's
thick, it's nice and thick dust.
Yeah. That's it, yeah.
Yeah, oops.
Yeah.
I will recuse myself if you want me to. I don't think this is a conflict of interest because I just happen to witness it,
No,
but.
No.
I don't think so.
Have you filed a complaint
Yeah.
about it in the city? No, maybe you have, then.
Oh, I
maybe you
know,
should.
I know he has, I know.
He has.
I knew your
Facebook
name from
forums,
Tom
you mean?
Walkholder. So
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
I knew your name well before you expressed interest on council because of Tom Walkholder telling me about your complaints. So yeah, we know you've been.
Fair enough.
All right, I would entertain a motion.
It was emailed to you, you have the supplemental write-up.
The Leavenworth City Council moves to accept the construction bid and authorize the mayor to execute a contract with Lemon Dust Control Inc. for 2025 on-call dust abatement services in the amount of $89,334.36.
Second.
Moved by Mike, seconded by Ann. Any other questions?
Yeah, where is that? The enterprise fleet vehicles last I have.
It was in an email.
We realized.
Oh,
that-
I didn't get it. I mean, it might be there, but I didn't find it.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry, Sharon.
well, swaggle.
I'm in the same place, Sharon. I
I
do.
didn't get it either.
Yeah, and I apologize, it got emailed out today, we had a mistake and it wasn't originally included in the packet, yet we want to do this early in May.
Right.
So we added it really last minute. and I
Can you make sure that's
apologize.
included online though, for
It should be.
public record? It's not yet.
You
It wasn't
should be.
mine.
No?
No. Just
Yes, we
double check, please. Thank you.
Make sure it is.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor, let me see your hands.
In favor of watering.
Of dust abatement. Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
can understand what that
You
is.
understand that one? Okay, it passes unanimously. All right, we are done with those business council reports. Sharon?
Oh, my gosh. I thought you were just gonna go on and on.
No, we're.
Yeah. Okay, on April 9th, I went to the Women's Exchange meeting, a really great group for anybody that is female and wants to go. On the 9th, I went to the wildfire workshop that was here at City Hall. There were several groups of different, men from different groups present, and they answered questions, and I thought it was a really good workshop. April 12th and 19th, both those Saturdays, I started volunteering at 3 cycle centers, excuse me, to help with the identification, to make sure that those who are bringing tree branches and stuff like that live within the city limits. And in the beginning, it seemed like we were getting quite a few, and we, bye-bye. And so we still get a couple come, but not a whole lot. April 17th, I went to our library to listen to book talk. The author was Linda Lockwood. Her book was Sky Ranch. Our library is an extremely busy place, and they have offerings for all ages. They do a great job. On April 21st, which was yesterday, I attended the Chelan Douglas Health District Board, which I am on, and they have a meeting once a month. They had the fentanyl crisis in our community group there, and a quote from our Chelan County Coroner Wayne Harris: "The addiction to fentanyl is so great, people are willing to die to get high. Fentanyl is 50 to 100 times more potent than heroin, fentanyl trends in Chelan, Douglas counties, or fentanyl trends in Chelan, Douglas counties. Fentanyl powder and what is this? You guys will know what it is.
Methamphetamine.
Yeah, okay. An introduction to our social care network has formed called Community Care Hub. It was an amazing presentation from many organizations. I'm really glad I was there. Just all kinds of different organizations that deal with narcotics of any kind, and that were all there, and they formed kind of a unit of working together. It was really awesome. April 22nd, today, I attended the Downtown Steering Committee meeting. It was an opportunity for our group and any public present to make comments regarding the pedestrian plaza. Selby, that's kind of Selby's report. And it was the presentation from the SOMAS group. Is that how they pronounce that? Okay. Please don't forget to attend the Chumsick Wildfire Stewardship Coalition and Partners Town Hall meeting at the Snowy Owl, not the Sleepy Owl, the Snowy Owl, Wednesday, the 30th, which is next Wednesday, to listen to keynote speaker, Mr. Paul Hesburgh. Woo! From 5 to 8. Thanks for listening.
All right. Right?
I as well attended the Downtown Steering Committee meeting earlier this morning. It was great, virtually. It was a great presentation by SOMAS. I agree. I will agree with Sharon that people should head out to Snowy Owl for the Chumsick Wildfire Stewardship Coalition. I'll be there. It'll be great. I also would like to invite people next Monday to head out to Cascade High School's Mr. Kodiak competition, where all the money gathered, all the money raised will go towards the senior sober celebration after graduation for the seniors. Hopefully I won't get fired after emceeing the event. I've done it for the last 15 years and my streak is alive. So anyway, it's a great time.
What time's that at, Colin?
Come there at 6 and the cringing starts at 7.
I was a judge last year, and it was just the bomb. It was just,
There you go.
just really fun. You and I both.
And that concludes my report.
All right, Zeke.
So I also attended the April 9th wildfire presentation. Very well done. I think they got some good explanation on it as best you can on evacuations. Really thorough, a lot of great information. I also attended the Upper Valley Historical Society on a week ago on Monday. They basically are negotiations. They haven't clinched them yet, but they're in serious negotiations with the National Grange Association to lease the Grange Hall. That seems to be moving along. And they're also looking to up their membership. They're pretty much in need of just volunteers and folks to carry the load. They did notice, as kind of Travis has mentioned, that their sales came down February, January from what it was last year. Pretty much attributed not just to Canadians not coming, but that was a big chunk of it. And then I took the last thing I did was I wrote it down here somewhere. Let's see. Well, I attended the Downtown Steering Committee also, but that's already been mentioned. So that is the end of my report.
Shane.
I don't have much to report other than I also attended the April 9th wildfire preparedness workshop, and it was really good to hear some of the department heads from our emergency management teams talk about what to expect and what to do if there is a fire threatening our town. But one thing to add on a side note, on April 12th, that Saturday, a neighbor came to my door. He was pretty frantic and he was asking to borrow a fire extinguisher. His oven had caught on fire, and I'd found out that he went to like 3 or 4 different houses and no one knew where their fire extinguisher was or if they had one. And so I was happy to, lend him mine and he was able to put out the fire and save his house. So,
Did they buy a new one?
Yeah.
no, they give me a fire blanket, so I was kind of hoping that he would reimburse me to have mine serviced, but it's okay. Hopefully, yeah, but that's the end of my report.
Thomas.
It's good that I own 2 fire extinguishers and I know where they're both at, or
You guys
on the spectrum. Speaking of which, my engine did catch on fire right across from the fire department. I was coming home the other day and I've never been able to yell fire in my life, but I saw the firemen in the doorway and I was right across from them at the high school. I parked right adjacent. I yelled fire a couple times and I saw one came out and then I thought for some reason they were going to bring a fire extinguisher, but they got their gear on, loaded up the truck, 5 minutes later, like, they got over and I ended up blowing it out. It kept coming back, blew it out. And anyways, I want to say a shout out to them. I appreciate that. One of their suggestions was leave it overnight and leave the hood kind of popped. So if it does flare up, they don't have to rip my hood off. So I appreciated that tip and I left it ajar. So I did attend the Firewise night too. And I think it was really great. We had a good turnout. And I think I believe that we are prepared as best we can. Like you said, it was having those agencies here and listening to all of them. They're professionals. They know what they're doing, and they know there's some staffing things, but they're all up to par, even with some of these issues. So I'm very pleased to hear that, and I hope a lot of the public reviews that video. I thought of Sharon when I went out to the salmon release party on Friday. She gets so excited about these different things she does in the community, and it was really cool. And I was not the only one without a kid there. There were people my age that were it was a really great turnout. Learned a lot. Really cool day. And parking committee and Ann was there as well. I'm excited. By the way, how many people are on the video right now, Andrea? Sylvie?
One.
Okay. No, it's okay. I thought maybe there were going to be a lot more at the parking committee. I invited a bunch of people on the Leavenworth Facebook page to come and attend, and I was disappointed that not as many showed up to our committee as I thought. It was a good spirited. I think it was a good engagement that I had with that Facebook group, and I talked to some people afterwards who saw it. And you forget sometimes in Facebook that other people see what you're saying. You don't realize they're just watching and observing. And I was fair and balanced, and it was good. And I hope that in the next meeting, right, and we're going to talk about some different avenues of offering some sort of, and it may not come to fruition, but we're all going to really put our heads together and either come up with some sort of opportunity for some sort of public parking incentives or discount or coupons for businesses. So there's something, and I think this is a really sharp committee, and I think we're gonna put something together in the next meeting, and I hope that some of the public shows up and listens. To that point, I want to say that I did miss right, and I left it up. Rona Barron did attend parking committees. I think I'd said 2, Ann. Yeah, she did attend 2 parking committees, and she cares about this community, and I just had looked and I didn't see that she had attended, and I said something, and I apologize for that, Rona. So parking, and there was something else, but that's it. Parking.
Right. I also went to the wildfire awareness, and that was great. I love to see all the coordinated effort. I really appreciate it. And if the takeaway is leave early. I think the traffic jam is gonna happen because everybody's gonna wait and see until the fire's looking at their house. So leave early and we won't have the problems that everybody's worried about. And then downtown steering committee, also a great meeting. Really excited about the options that are coming out. It's gonna be really fun to see that take shape over the years. And then kind of a little plug, kind of like your Mr. Kodiak plug, but as most of you know, maybe I'm the head coach of the Icicle Bicycle Club, and on May the 4th, so May the 4th be with you. We're hosting a race up at Ski Hill, the first race ever for the state league that we're part of, and there's probably gonna be about 1,000 people up there. But it's going to be awesome. We had energy. These kids are incredible athletes and that's really fun, healthy competition. If you have any curiosity about that coming up and sure on your icicle bicyclists. We're really looking forward to hosting.
When's it start, Mike?
First race is gonna be 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
It's going until early afternoon.
All right.
Fun. All right, well, just a couple of quick ones for me. One is the perpetual. Oh, I'm sorry. You're not in line.
Getting ahead of yourself, Mr. Mayor.
I remembered you halfway through.
Well, we got you.
But when we went by, I just go, nope. All right, go ahead, Dan.
That's okay. I'll forgive you this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
On April 15th, I attended the Link Transit Board meeting and we actually did something really fun. We approved a proclamation that establishes what we're calling the Spirit of Lynn Burton Scholarship Award. And Lynn Burton is the second employee Link Transit ever hired in the 90s when Link Transit was established. She's worked at Link Transit for over 30 years and she is retiring this spring in May. And so we set up a scholarship award for training employees and educating employees at Link Transit in her name. And I thought that was really fun to share.
Yeah, that's cool.
We also, as a Leavenworth community, continue to set ridership records, which is fantastic. We have, as I continue to mention, 3 different lines that Link operates for us. Our regular intercity Route 22 line, our Express 122 line that has a direct route down to Wenatchee and heads to the hospital. And then we also have our shuttle, Route 32. And Route 32 continues to get incremental increases in ridership. And I would love it if we would get behind some more direct outreach and education to our community that we have this shuttle at our that we can use as a community and for our visitorship. I don't think that it is as well known as it could be, and it's a huge free resource for us. So that is something that I would advocate for. Let's see. As Travis mentioned, we had a parking advisory committee meeting last week on Thursday, the 17th. We had a really robust conversation with Clever City's representative, Sunny, regarding our over-the-head lot sensors that are doing parking counts and telling us which stalls are open in the lots that have these aerial sensors. We had a discussion about testing out an app associated with that and what to name the app. We didn't land on anything specific, but we wanted something that was really clear and understandable for the app. One of the things that I think that the committee brought up that was important was the fact that this app for the aerial sensors does not particularly commingle with our other app for finding parking. And the committee had some concerns about confusion with user groups, tourists and locals, if they had to navigate 2 different apps in order to find parking or pay for parking. So we're not rolling that app out yet. There's going to be some future discussion about that. We also don't have those aerial sensors in all of our parking lots yet. And the committee really wanted to have more parking lots with the aerial sensors and a little bit more work on the app to see if that's going to be advantageous for us to roll out or if it's just easier for people to pay at kiosks or by their phone texting and those sorts of things. We have lots of different ways that people can pay. And as we're seeing in the monthly numbers, our violation numbers are decreasing slowly, which is great, which means more people are understanding how to pay for parking. They are paying for their parking. They're not running into a lot of issues the way they did with when we had the when we didn't have the kiosks in place. So the kiosks have been a great move for the city. Let's see. We have the garage RFQ out and open for application, which is really exciting. So that's a big move for the parking committee, and we're excited about that. And then we have the upcoming community engagement night that is also mentioned in our council packet for May 6th. And there will be a parking table at the engagement night, which is great. And then since Mike was plugging something associated with Icicle Bicycle, I also would like to plug the fact that Bike and Brew is coming back, but it is being renamed and it is going to be more expansive this year. Leavenworth Bike Fest is coming to Leavenworth at Ski Hill, June 13th through the 15th, and it will incorporate a gravel race, Bike and Brew Mountain Bike Fest, a century ride, and they're bringing back Bike and Juice as well, the youth race, which I'm really excited about. So it's going to be a whole festival weekend centered around biking, music, all sorts of fun. So mark your calendars. It should be a great weekend.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. And that's it for me.
Well, we should have, everybody have to bring up an event for every time there's money.
I can do that.
I think what that shows though is how involved so many of us are in the community,
Yeah,
right? You know,
great.
just
And
Yes.
Mayfest, walk in the parade, Mayfest.
Yeah, an invitation.
You
was sent
got
out
the
by our-
invitation, you should have.
Sharon, did you get the invitation?
I have to do the Royal Lady.
Yeah.
I'll be with the Royal Ladies.
So, just a couple of quick items. One, I was down today, meeting with the commissioners on, a potential swap that Maggie had talked to us about with our UGA. Giving up some maybe less desirable pieces in exchange for some others. And I know there was some skepticism whether we would get very far with that, but I actually had a good meeting with them and they agreed to have conversations ongoing with us about the potential, and I'm optimistic that we can cooperate and find a win-win. So it was a good meeting, I'll have to say. And then the other item, just real quickly, is my work is not done. We weren't able to get the short-term rental tax passed. It's just, it wasn't because there wasn't support. It's just too many things going on and they don't have enough time to get them all moved, even if they know they can pass them. They run under that time crunch. And of course, this year with our budget being all topsy-turvy, they didn't want to do anything but budget this last week. So, you know, that everything had to end, or anyway, it just means that I get to keep cracking my head against the wall. But one of the good things that's come out of this is we made a couple of other connections with some other tourist towns and Association of Washington Cities. I might have mentioned this when we're down there in June. We will have an opportunity to have WSU show up with their study on the impacts on housing in the tourism communities and be able to gather those tourism communities together to try to build a coalition that we can work together in more systematic fashion going forward. So, I'm not going to give up as long as I'm in this chair. So we'll see. But it was disappointing. I was depressed for a day, but then I just go, well, you got to keep going. So anyway, that's my report. And then, then I'm looking forward to going the very first time out of the country that direction. So
that'll be awesome.
That'll be great. Yep. Great.
Oh, sure. Reminder, community engagement night at the Fest Hall. It's going to be Tuesday, May 6th at 4 p.m. So we're not going to have a meeting for that. Please mark your calendars and please attend. I've had a couple of river recreation meetings recently. Just so you guys know, the fish hatchery is planning to close the boat launch and the parking lot that accommodates 300 vehicles at the end of sport fishing season, whenever that is, which is predicted right now to be June 30th. So that leaves typically another 3 weeks to a month of people floating the icicle, and they won't have a place to park at the pier. So we've been crunching our heads or getting heads together to try to figure out how to mitigate some of the impacts from that. And more later. I can't tell you we have a ton of solutions other than messaging to people and going forward with a shuttle. So I do have 2 quotes for a shuttle. I'll bring you most likely a contract with the shuttle operator at your next meeting. I also met with Link Transit to see if they would be interested in helping out with transporting river users. We had met with them about a year ago. At that point in time, they said they didn't have the capacity. They were down a lot of drivers. Met with them this year. They said, yeah, we can't get anything done for this year. Talk to us again in October, but we're not disinterested. We can try to be part of a solution for that. I was also told, and I don't know if this has been mentioned, that we're getting 2 electric shuttles that are going to be wrapped with a Bavarian theme. I'm not sure if I may have given us an update about that previously, but I was probably thinking about what I was going to say when she was giving an update. So that felt like news to me. Everybody's talked about the downtown steering committee meeting today with SOMAS. They will be at the community engagement night, showing the public what they've come up with so far and getting some feedback from them, which is great. So at the PAC, we did discuss I did ask all the committee members to come with 2 to 3 ideas for how we can implement some kind of locals parking program. The RFQ is due May 5th. And also the Parking Advisory Committee suggested that we've been talking about this app. The committee really wants us to move forward with the signs that this technology allows us to do. We discussed this back in the fall. We weren't ready to pull the trigger on that. We do need to reach out to DOT and figure out where we can install these. They're large signs. They're 7 feet by 5 feet, so 35 square foot signs. I'm thinking right before the Safeway and right around the roundabout. And as I was thinking about that, I reached out to Link and said, hey, can we put our sensors on your lot on the park and ride so we can tell people what's available there when they're driving into town? And they said, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we'll add those, that capacity. It's not ours. We don't enforce it, but we can tell people, once we sense it and we know what's available, we can tell people whether or not there's free parking. And then they can hop on a shuttle to come into town. And so we're going to Bavaria on Saturday. Chantel will be the acting city administrator in my absence.
Just go.
I'm gonna insert one more thing that I forgot. I met yesterday with the PUD commissioners. We're up here and they met in Leavenworth. So we went over some of the projects, but I also updated them on the fact that we now have ARC that did our facilities analysis and what our needs were, is also the one who's going to be looking at their site, the PUD site, as to its appropriateness and whether or not we can move the public works up there. So I gave them an update on that as well. So yeah, and they're still all the commissioners were there. They're on board and wanting to see it be a win-win kind of situation. So we'll see what happens.
That'd be pretty cool.
Okay, Chantel.
Thank you, Ford. Just a few brief updates on annual reports and progress. So we're done with the WSDOT non-discrimination report. Thank you, team. We got that through the finish line today. I'll be sending it out on Friday, but it's done. Lodging tax and PRSA, I will get both of those 2 done this week as well. And Shirley, our deputy treasurer upstairs, she emailed all of you on March 21st, and she needs a response. Thank you, Anne, and thank you, Sharon. You both have already responded. What this is about is during the annual report, we have to list who you are, who you work for. Auditors are looking for conflicts of interest, and related parties is what they call it. So please look for that email. She just needs you to confirm who you are, who you work for, who your spouse is, if you have one, who they work for. So they do look through the city's vendors to see if your businesses are benefiting. So this is just a way for them to make sure that, you as a council member are not getting some sort of financial benefit from your position, which I believe none of you are, But we just need to make sure that we give the auditors that appropriate information. I'm seeing a little confusion and some of you saying, I didn't get it. I'm gonna go ahead and remind Shirley to just resend that tomorrow.
Yeah, I
So I'll have her resend it out. You got it? Okay, all right.
You got it.
Somebody read it and left it unread.
Okay, I'll still have her go ahead and send out a reminder, because in order for us to finish the annual report by May 30th, we will need to have that final document completed as well. And under tab 17 is your finance report, so if you have any questions for me, let me know. Okay.
Maybe.
You say, I'm sorry, real quick, the finance committee meeting in June, did you say earlier? There's a finance committee meeting coming up?
No, tab 17 is your finance report.
Earlier in the evening, you had said something about June finance committee relooking at
Oh,
stuff.
the finance department and the public works department,
Finance
we are going to be getting together to look at the entire ER in our schedule.
Okay.
And reassess the years of
Sorry, A and B, see yourself.
service
I
that
know.
we
Well,
put them and the current
Finance committee.
status of each piece of equipment. And we have a rating scale of 1 to 10, 1 being worst, 10 being best.
Okay.
That's what we're doing.
Not the committee, sorry, just.
Yeah.
Why
no-
did I-
no committee, just
I would have
staff.
missed my first committee.
No, the finance committee, it used to be an annual monthly, you
Yeah,
know, but
monthly
when we
thing.
consolidated committees, the finance committee kind of went away, but we take assignments from the council if something comes up.
Yeah.
And last year I ran it the full year because we had quite a few new people
Yeah.
and it was a budget year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
next year we'll reinvigorate, I'm sure, the budget committee, because we may have new members again and it'll be a budget year
I'll
again.
be on it.
Yeah.
Rotate out of it. Maybe you rotate out. of it.
And I will be brief, thank you.
Okay.
In April so far, our department has taken in around 60 permits in some sort or fashion. That's building, planning, special use permits, all that jazz. So it's been a very busy month for our team. We have the Earth Day event coming up this Sunday, April 27th, the community event down at the park. And Celeste Berry, our senior planner, will have a booth there with Chelan County for the climate element. So go say hi if you happen to go to that event. It's gonna be cool. I will not be there because I too will head to the very episode there. So while I'm in my absence, Celeste will be filling in as acting director. We have a new online application for special events through our Permit Tracks online portal. We just released that this week. Huge kudos to Christian and Lewis. They responded swiftly to a life safety code violation that occurred over the weekend and got it resolved by today. So that was really awesome of them to take the lead on that and work through a collaborative resolution. And then I just wanted to give a shout out to Aiden, Amy, and Celeste for taking on all the special event permits. It's been a challenge kind of learn a new process and they're taking it in stride. So I just wanted to share that with you. Our consultants from BHC and Pertee will be attending the May 6th Community Engagement Night to talk comp plan update. So please check out their table. We will be there as well, our planning staff. They're also going to be attending the May 7th Planning Commission meeting. 2 separate topics pretty much, but so look out for that agenda in the packet for the Planning Commission. And then Kenny Renner Singer has stepped down from his position with the Planning Commission. It's a huge loss. We really enjoyed having him. He's been wonderful to work with and will be missed. But we now have a new opportunity to get a new member. So
He didn't step down because
he's just
the pressures from the community, or
no,
was he?
he's just,
Okay.
he said he couldn't fully commit
Okay.
because of his work. It's just hard and he missed some meetings and wanted to
Yeah.
provide somebody else the opportunity to serve and stuff. But so, yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Andy.
Yeah, I'll be quick too. I actually got an update email just since the presentation, Adam, but the draft purchase and sale agreement that we were talking about should be ready once we get back from the area, so early May. So we'll get that on the council agenda and bring that to you sometime in May, probably by your second meeting. And then just the other item I wanted you to be aware of, I'll be bringing an agreement to you to approve We have a private property owner on Icicle who has low water pressure. And it's kind of an unfortunate situation. It was something that was previously approved. They have had a private booster pump. It has failed. And they reached out and said, it's actually your responsibility to replace this. And reading the WAC, it is the city's responsibility to provide a minimum of 30 PSI to the meter, which we don't. They're quite high in the system. They're quite close to the reservoir, or sorry, not the reservoir, but the surface water treatment plant. So their theoretical pressure should only be 22 PSI. We've measured it at 27, but it is an issue and we don't meet the WAC. So we need to replace the booster pump and then have a permanent easement in place. So I'll be bringing that to you once we finalize that. That's all.
Can I throw in one more easement? Behind us, is a power line owned by the PUD. There is no easement on the books for it. There is a proposed development, in the vacant lot that's right behind City Hall. It's a multifamily, project. And the PUD would like to, put in a new pole to service that new development. So I said, no easement, no new pole. So at your next council meeting, you will have an easement for your consideration.
I gotta throw in one thing quick too. When I went to the Chelan Douglas Health Department meeting, and when I got home, I went to the mosquito board meeting.
No.
And it's always via Zoom. And Dale Massey, who has been the president since its inception, he and his wife have moved to, he retired, and he and his wife has moved to Wenatchee. So we are getting a new president.
Wow. Okay.
I just had to say that.
I would entertain a motion to.
I move to adjourn.
All those in favor? Let me see your hand. All right.
Indian vote.
Thank you all.
I have a question and I feel pretty
There you go.
embarrassed that I'm asking so much.
Travis.
I apologize for looking at you when I was arguing ideas, and I didn't want you to think that I was. We talked about it, whether it's.
Everyone.
I respect you so much. Be nice.
The house on